Ein stares down a glowing crystal, feeling the air hum with power, scans the room to make sure nobody's watching, and then locks his focus on the stone. In the shadows, the king and Olivia keep their eyes locked on everything. Olivia stays right behind him like he ordered. A mysterious figure hovers above, glowing with divine power, and the boy suddenly realizes he's trapped in a surreal new space. Confused, he hangs on every word as the being lays out how he died, because the reason is painfully absurd, and then it hits him. He's about to be reincarnated. They tossed him into a life or gacha machine. Now his next life is left to pure luck. The boy strides up to the gacha machine, then freezes. Doubt hits him hard, until the goddess pushes him on and he spins it. A golden capsule crashes down, rare and glowing like it's alive. Inside, he digs out a slip of paper that teaches him an unfamiliar skill. The toxin breaks down. He just stares, baffled, gripping at the question of what it's worth. He glares at the skill, disbelief exploding into angry shouts, while the goddess beams with pride and explains how its rare power can wipe out toxins and bacteria. Right before he can even protest, a portal rips open under his feet. Then she sends him through with a calm smile, wishing him luck in a world packed with stats, monsters, and magic, and he gets yanked inside, screaming as his new life kicks in. In a silent room inside a giant mansion, a little kid jolts awake alone at a table, and as the curtains breathe with the breeze, he slowly stretches his hand toward a bowl of food. Still half asleep, he can't shake the feeling that what just happened was a dream, maybe even the instant he got reincarnated. 5 years have slammed by since his reincarnation. Now he's just a kid, and every day he's still tripping over his own feet. But instead of hesitating, he decides to try that wild gacha skill. Calm as can be, he drinks it down, then hits the switch to unleash X-toxin decomposition. For the first time, it finally works. Boom, the experiment wipes out the bacteria completely, and his power proves it's real. Pounding with headaches and drained to the bone from the side effects, he finally snaps. He quits the skill for good, calling it worthless, then slams the table in pure fury. Remembering every brutal training lesson from his father, he bolts outside without a second thought. In the courtyard, knights are already going at it, and he rushes in to get his own practice started, aim drills with razor-sharp focus. He swung his wooden sword with everything he had, but even with all that effort, his form still needed work. Logas, his father, a powerful general from a great kingdom, watched with hard eyes and barked for him to train harder. Ein nodded nervously, sweating under the weight of everyone's expectations. Ein stares into the new life he's been handed, and it hits him. He's not just starting over, he's been reborn into the influential Roundheart family, the kind that rules an entire powerhouse port region. Training under his father's watchful eyes, Logas feels his rare gacha reward harden into destiny, like fate is finally clicking into place. While Camilla, a noblewoman with a warm smile, stands nearby, and a young knight in training greets Logas with respect. Logas breaks into proud cheers, praising Grint and declaring that with his training finally locked in, he looks like a real knight. Camilla and Logas move in to help him, while Ein is told to keep swinging his sword by himself. As Grint strides away with full confidence, Ein keeps quiet, watching him like a storm trapped behind his eyes. Ein leans in and tells you Grint is his younger half-brother, born from their father's second wife. And even a year behind him, Grint has a rare, world-shaking skill. During the holy night, everyone in the kingdom treats his name like a legend. But Ein just stares at his own toxin decomposition X, feeling it's useless compared to that greatness stuck in his brother's shadow. Ein trains solo, death gripping his sword as frustration boils over because sure, he believes his father is fair. But in his gut, he can't stop thinking Grint shines brighter in everyone's eyes, and that comparison gnaws at him non-stop. Rage and self-doubt fuel him as he lashes out with full force, pouring every trapped emotion into one brutal swing. Staring down a fully armored training dummy, Ein's eyes blaze with determination, and he quickly scans the room, plotting his next move in his head. Knowing it's nearly impossible to budge the ironclad figure, he still charges in, screaming at the top of his lungs, while a nearby knight laughs and reminds him it's solid metal. Ein clenches his fist anyway, furious at how pointless it is, because that's exactly why he has to try. Ein lunges at the armored dummy with everything he's got. Then the hit rebounds hard, his sword skitters away, and pain slams him to the ground as the knight's truth creeps back in. It's impossible. As Ein hunches there, gripping his hand like it's burning, pain and rage twisting in his chest, he slips away in silence, staring at his trembling fingers, completely lost on what he's even supposed to feel. Fueled by sheer determination to impress his father and win Camilla over, Ein buries himself in his studies, surrounded by towering stacks of books, and vows to outwork everyone around him. The butler can't stop praising Ein, cheering her ruthless training and non-stop studying. He leans in and tells Ein that even the servants think he's got serious potential. Ein smiles through the relief, but deep down she's praying, hoping their faith in him is finally going to turn into something real. The moment Ein hears his mom's voice, joy explodes across his face. He darts to her room, all jittery with excitement, knocks softly, then hears her and rushes in. When she answers, he straightens his outfit, steps inside grinning like he's got something up his sleeve. He steps in, and Olivia, his mom, breaks into a warm welcome like she's been waiting just for him. Her young face and soft aura make her feel less like a stranger and more like his older sister, especially because he still remembers his past life like it just happened. Olivia pulls Ein into a warm embrace and praises him like his efforts actually mattered more than anything. And she tells him he's always giving his best, then teases that he smells like books, right as he turns bright red with embarrassment, though her words still hit him like a warm promise. He's doing great. Anne asks what Olivia's been up to, and her heart drops when she realizes Olivia's been carrying the whole workload by herself, even though it was supposed to be split between them. It crushes him that his father won't lift a finger to help. He stands there, almost breathless, quietly admiring how capable and beautiful his mother is, caught between pure awe and that awkward feeling of realizing he's staring. Olivia thrusts on his status card, then points him straight into his new reality. Something he's been dying for, then he reads it. He glances at his stats and job title, Roundheart House, the oldest son, and there it is. 2 skills, Toxin Decomposition X, plus a brand new one called Gift of Training. Ein's eyes go wide with shock and curiosity. He thanks Olivia for the status card, but he can't tell if his stats are actually any good. She tells him, straight up, that it's totally normal for a 5-year-old to get curious about a brand new skill. She tells everyone that the gift of training hammers the body stronger, melts away pain and fatigue, and turns you into a real endurance monster. Then Anne realizes maybe this status isn't so bad after all. Olivia can't help herself. She gushes to Ain that nobody understands just how hard he fights for improvement like she does. Moved by her words, Aim leans in, listening as the topic flips to the task his grandmother has waiting for him. Then she grins and pushes the idea to hit the streets together for a walk. Ain can't wrap his head around why his mother insists on doing it alone. Doubts slam into him, and then guilt strikes hard as he tells himself he's not worthy, not as the eldest son. Scared she'll bail because of his flaws, he clenches his fist as guilt crashes over him. Then Olivia gently cups his hand, immediately feeling the hurt in his chest. Olivia softly calls on her extraordinary knight, then asks if he'll ride beside her. His face erupts in joy, and he nods without a second thought, ready to race to her side. Olivia and Ein rush into a tea merchant's shop to pick out the perfect brew, and when the seller spots her, he's so shocked he immediately scrambles to pull out his absolute best teas. As they settle in, Ein spots something weird tucked among the supplies, magic stones, and he can't help it. He leans in and asks what they are, eyes blazing with curiosity. A merchant leans in and tells you this. Magic stones are pulled straight from monsters, packed with insane power. People use them for rituals, gear, and even accessories. Curious now. Ein gets to hold just one, and the second he grips it, the stone ignites with a wild, furious glow, shooting surprise through everyone watching. Ein fixes her eyes on the glowing magic stone, wondering if it tastes as good as it smells, and curiosity grabs her by the collar. Even though he knows it's insane, he sneaks in a taste anyway. No one catches on, but his heart kicks into overdrive, and he can't stop wondering if he just crossed a line he can never uncross. Ein freezes in pure shock, and when the magic stone hits his tongue, it tastes unbelievably sweet. Before he can even breathe, joy floods him so hard he clutches it like the most precious treat he's ever found. Olivia clocks his reaction and demands to know what's wrong. So he panics, stammers, and swears everything's fine, scrambling to hide the wild truth. Olivia picks 3 TS, and the merchant, grateful, swoops in, handing over a magical stone as a gift. Ain't so happily accepts it. Then, right when they're about to leave, he spots something weird. That bright yellow glow from the stone is dying out, and he just freezes, staring at it, totally baffled. The very next day, during training, Ain spots something that just doesn't belong, and it sends a chill down her spine. His power suddenly surges, one savage swing, and his blade slices cleaner and sharper than it ever has, leaving the knights around him stunned, clueless that something inside him has just flipped. With one brutal swing, Ein's blade rips straight through the armored dummy, something he'd never been able to pull off before. Reeling from his own insane power, he realizes something seriously off. Then Ein exhales with relief. He's unharmed. But the moment his strike lands, the shock hits everyone at once. His wooden sword shatters, and the training dummy gets blasted to pieces. As the dust finally settles, Iron stands dead center, silently taking it all in and processing what just went down. The armored dummy lies in pieces, cleanly split down the middle, and Ein freezes on the spot, stunned that he just did that with his own power. One of them gasps in pure disbelief, screaming that the young master actually pulled it off. Aim jerks his head up, still stunned by what he just witnessed. A wooden sword slices the iron armor clean in two, right down the middle, and one knight screams in total shock, as if he can't believe his eyes. Next thing you know, a status window pops up with Ein's name, stats, and skills, and you realize instantly his power just skyrocketed. During the carriage ride, the vibe flips fast. Ein sits there fidgeting as his mother's icy silence stares him down, and it's obvious she's furious. But the real reason is never spoken aloud. Ein panics, scrambling to calm her, convinced something specific must have set her off. But she knows staying silent won't fix a thing. At a grand noble gathering, Ein's father, Logus, steps up and declares his younger son, Grint, the new heir of the Roundheart family. To make it even worse, he blurts out that Grint is already engaged to a marquis's daughter, despite the kid being just 4 years old. Ein stays silent on the outside, but fury simmers in his chest. His mother rushes to apologize, knowing he's being pushed aside, and tells him he'll have to grit his teeth and endure it for now. Ein forces a grin onto his face, swallowing his frustration so his mother won't start worrying. He doubles down on his training to earn his father's approval, but everyone's already pointing fingers at his latest sword clashes, claiming his armor's worn out, while Iron keeps staring like he knows there's something bigger going on. Especially after he licked that mysterious stone, and even as the carriage rolls up to their stop, the thought still won't leave his head. As they arrive at their destination, Ein freezes, staring at the grand mansion looming in front of him, massive, elegant, and totally unlike anything he's ever seen. A stone statue looms at the entrance, guarding the estate with pure power, and the moment you see it, you know you're stepping into the world of nobles. Ein and his mother stare in stunned silence at the mansion's massive scale, while Olivia just calmly says it looks exactly like a royal palace. As Olivia guides Ein forward, she tells him to stick close and trust her, because she already knows exactly how brutal the social pressure is going to hit him. Ein missed the party because every family could only bring one kid, and Grint was already picked. Ein's mother tries to talk him down, but it clicks. They realize Camilla engineered the whole thing to keep Ein out of the party, and somehow Ein isn't even bothered. As his mother fought for him, he suddenly realized he didn't care about the event at all. What truly hooked him was something else. The beautiful garden stretched out beyond the place, and the moment he stepped onto the balcony, he froze, because the sheer size and elegance hit him like a wave. The calm view steadied his heart, and he genuinely thought just wandering through all of it would be enough to make him happy, even with the celebration going on. After Ein's words landed, the attendant snapped into a bow and promised he'd rush the news to the Archduke, while Ein herself seemed way more spellbound by the garden than by the party. With a soft smile, he stared at the flowers blooming around him, thinking they were as beautiful as his mother, and when she quietly asked if he was really fine missing the event, he just nodded, because for him, this peaceful moment in the blossoms was all he needed. With a bright grin, Ein squeezed his mother's hands and said that being wrapped in flowers made him happier than any party ever could. But then she touched his hand and yanked him into a fierce, tight hug, so close she could feel his warmth and his honesty. Like for one breath she forgot they were guests in someone else's home, and that simple moment flooded her with peace. After the Archduke grants the okay, a butler marches up to Ein and his mother and tells them a guide is coming to lead them through the garden. Then they thank him as he slips away. A young girl glides in and greets everyone with calm confidence, then turns her curious gaze on Ein and asks, straight up, if he's the oldest child of the Roundheart family. Like her arrival just flipped the whole mood, setting up a brand new conversation. She steps up with a calm, gentle smile and introduces herself as Klain, Graf August's granddaughter, head of the August family. And just like that, she makes her noble bloodline feel undeniable. Ein quietly watched him leave, stunned by just how bold and present Klain was. Then Ein snapped back, hesitated for half a breath, and introduced himself to her, unable to ignore why she was there. Klain stays calm and polite, drops a sincere apology for the earlier screw-up her family caused, and right after, an awkward silence snaps between them. She steps forward with a proper bow and offers to lead Ein and Olivia through the garden. inviting them to sink into the walk and enjoy every moment. As they strolled through a breathtaking, elegant garden, Ein can't look away from the glowing flowers, whispering that it feels mystical, while Claim glides ahead and Olivia quietly drinks in the view. Yet Ein isn't just impressed. He's hit hardest by the simple fact that he's standing right beside Olivia, the one he truly treasures. The group keeps wandering through the radiant garden as the setting sun bathes everything in a warm glow, and they're all stunned that the inner courtyard feels even more magical than outside. Klain even points out that it looks its absolute best right at sunset. Inside the grand hall, Noble leaned in and whispered about Ein, then spilled the truth about how she's tied to the Roundheart family. Whispers tore through the crowd. Half were stunned by his Holy Knight skill, and the other half couldn't stop comparing him to his older sibling. Meanwhile, Klain strides ahead in dead silence, ignoring every whisper, because to her, Ein doesn't stand out for power or reputation. But it was his gentleness. She felt it stronger than any title or rumor swirling around them. Ein absolutely stunned. Before she could even breathe, he started showering compliments without a second thought, and it hit her like a curveball. Flustered yet totally thrilled, she froze on the spot. Then the whole crew snaps their attention to a glowing blue rose, lighting up the air like it's about to change everything. A rare wonder, one called the blue flame, erupts into the air, and Klain leans in to explain why it's so priceless and so hard to make bloom, insisting the environment has to be just right, down to the smallest detail. Ein stares, hooked, blown away not only by the flower itself, but by how much Klain genuinely knows. Klain stays cool as he warns everyone. Those glowing blue rose thorns are drenched in poison so deadly that even one thorn could wipe out 1,000 people. She explains that blue flame rose gets its name from the toxin's brutal, searing burn, and Ein's face drops, stunned by how something so gorgeous can be that deadly. Olivia steps in and declares, "Yeah, it's dangerous, but that flower can turn into a real treasure." When Ein asks if that means forcing it to be something it isn't, Olivia shakes her head and insists it's not about faking anything. It's about becoming the genuine gem it's meant to be. Klain leans in and explains that if they can pull every last drop of poison out of that blue flame rose, it'll magically turn into a gem all on its own. Then Olivia chimes in that the poison in the flower can even crystallize things. They say there's a legendary gem called the Star Crystal, so stunning it might be the most beautiful thing ever made, shining like a slice of the night sky, while its petals glitter like tiny stars. Then Iron finds out the hard way, purifying that flower is brutal, expensive work. Klain drops the bomb. There are only 2 of these roses anywhere in the whole kingdom of Heim. And Olivia admits she burned through a full half-year of regional taxes just to purify one, leaving Ein stunned by how rare and costly it really is. Ein snaps into a memory. People once adored his rare gift, Poison Decomposition X, the power to swallow any toxin or poison whole, yet somehow, despite that, those side effects always battered him with dizzy waves and crushing weakness, so even using his power felt like fighting through fog. Until he stood before Klain and quietly told himself it wasn't worth anything, that he was worthless, that his ability didn't matter. Then, just to break the tension, he offered a tiny lifeline. Want to see the Star Crystal? As if he might still be able to matter after all. Ein finally gets it, and even after the warnings, he lunges in and snatches the deadly blue rose, one that's packed with lethal poison, right as Klein and Olivia scream at him to stop. Then light detonates from Ein's body, his power kicks in, and the whole moment snaps into pure tension as his Poison Decomposition X starts to work. Ein snaps his power on and slips into a cleansing state, drifting through bubbling orbs like he's submerged beneath the waves. He can feel the poison finally getting forced out of his body, and it hits like cold mint soda on his tongue. But this time, something feels off, like it's not hitting the same way it did last time. Even though the plan is working, something feels off, and it straight up bulldozes right past the girl's warnings. Gripping the poisonous rose with steel-tight control, he watches his hand ignite with a blazing glow. He taps into his one-of-a-kind power and knows it will crush poison every time, smirking like, this is it. With fire in his chest, he pushes forward, sure he's about to prove the truth everyone's claimed. He was built for this exact moment. With a calm, knowing smile, Ein stares at the results in his hands. The rose is purified and glowing with rare, breathtaking power, and he clenches the Bintang crystal like it's proof of his victory. The legendary jewel only shows up after every last trace of poison is scraped out of the flower. Klain stares in shock at Ein's audacity, still doubting how he even dared to reach it, touch, purify, and kneel before a flower this dangerous. Ein humbly thrusts a crystallized rose into her hands, swearing he's finally brought the one thing she's wanted with her whole heart. Because the moment she sees it, shock wipes the words right out of her mouth. Ein drops to her knees in front of Klain and hands him the crystallized rose he forged with his own 2 hands. With a calm smile, he silently extends the gift, proof of his power and his dedication, while the women nearby stare in shock, their faces lighting up with surprise and emotion. While Ein frets that Klain might mock him for his words, panic hits hard. He cringes at how he let the moment sweep him away. Heat rushes to his cheeks as embarrassment explodes, and he backs off fast, shaking with nerves. Klain freezes on the spot, cheeks burning red, clutching her chest like she's trying to hold her heart in place, completely stunned by what just happened. A shy boy nervously thrust a tiny gift into the other person's hands. With her doubts clawing at her, the girl finally grabbed it and accepted it. Their hands brushed for a second, and both of them went hot with embarrassment, as a calm, cozy warmth sparked right between their fingers. Beneath the moon's glow, the girl beamed, clutching that little gift to her chest, and with roses all around her, she accepted it with pure, calm joy lighting up her face. Beneath the moonlit glow of the garden, Ein shyly thrust out his handmade gift, and everyone around him couldn't help but admire it. Then Klain accepted it with a bright warmth, and just like that, Ein couldn't wait to ask for another so he could give one to his mother next. As evening rolled in, gratitude surged through the room and soft smiles lingered on every face, both families soaking up the calm together before they finally said their goodbyes. Klain leaned in and flat out told Ein she didn't have to keep using that super formal tone with him anymore. Her voice brooked zero argument. Then, even flustered, he grinned and said yes. As the night dragged on, guests started slipping out, and Ein clung to his mother's side, feeling something was wrong because his father was still nowhere in sight. Ein's mother pressed her for answers about her husband. Then her face fell when she learned he'd slipped out early to hit another party. Shocked and crushed, she froze, while Ein finally snapped into the truth. With his eyes dropping, he couldn't stop asking, did his own father really look at him and see nothing worth? Ein's mother leaned in and asked, softly but firmly, if he still cared about his father. Then Ein froze because his heart couldn't decide what to feel. Even though he was grateful to have been raised, he couldn't shake the poison of how his father treated his mother, especially when he heard her son speaking up. Ein's mother broke into a gentle smile, her heart instantly warmed by his honesty. Then, with pure resolve blazing in her eyes, she grabbed his hand and declared, "We're leaving," because she couldn't stand watching him suffer like this a second longer. Beneath the moonlit sky, Ein's mother flashed a smile and swept him away from the castle, eyes blazing with purpose as she vowed to take him to the most beautiful place in all their homeland. Beneath a calm, star-filled night sky, Ein's mother slipped her ring off and let it fall right there, saying she didn't need it anymore. With a soft smile, she quietly called to set their departure, then turned to Ein and promised they'd head back to the city's port together. Under the midnight sky, Ein rode home with his mother, and her smile wrapped him in pure comfort. But when the carriage refused to stop, a wave of dread crashed through him. His mom softly told him to wait a little longer, but her calm face was hiding a secret he couldn't grasp yet. As Ein stared out the window, total confusion crashed over him. The whole city exploded into chaos. People screamed, bolted in every direction, and panic drowned everything in non-stop noise. A creepy machine suddenly rose in the middle of the streets, and Ein froze there, staring in pure, breathless shock. A colossal warship burst out of the harbor, its cannons flashing under the moon like they meant business. While the crowd locked up in awe and dread, waves battering the docks as the ship's raw power swallowed the night whole. And right then his mother stumbled outside, eyes wide, because an enormous ship was charging toward the port. The townspeople screamed and scattered as armored soldiers bore down on them. They started climbing down from the vessel, and the moment they showed up, you could feel something horrifying was about to hit. Ein and his mother stared down a wall of armored soldiers, drilled into flawless formation as their footsteps echoed in fear. Ein's stomach dropped as worry crushed him, but his mother tried to soothe him. Then the air turned tense, and a mysterious figure stepped in and spoke straight to Ein. A knight in shining armor surged forward, then yanked off her helmet to expose a warm, gentle smile. She flashed a confident smile and introduced herself as Christina Vernestein, then greeted Ein with respect. Right there, their story kicked off. Ein's eyes widened when she realized the knights weren't enemies at all. Christina was stunning, and the whole scene screamed, "Don't fear them." Christina greeted Olivia and told her, straight up, they'd boarded the ship just to bring Princess Olivia home. Leaving Ein reeling, she realized the real reason they'd come wasn't what she expected at all. Olivia made Ein a promise she'd lay out the whole story later. Christina and the rest climbed aboard the ship together. Their road finally spat them out at a towering mansion under a moonlit sky, the August Archduke's very home. Inside the mansion, Graf August, the family head, struck up an intense talk with his granddaughter about the latest trouble they'd been facing. She nodded along with his words, gratitude hitting her hard, because Ain's gift had been something truly precious. As Graf August recognized the Roundheart family's power, he let out a heavy sigh, because he couldn't shake the fear that the other family might try to back out of their promise for the next family head. He leaned in and told Klain to get ready, because what was coming next wasn't going to hold back. Graf shifted the spotlight onto Benua Ishtar, the only kingdom on the whole continent, and laid out the road ahead like it was about to get brutal. Graf laid it out straight. Istallica wasn't just a kingdom. It was an astonishing, united powerhouse that blew their own out of the water in every single way. He dropped the bombshell that Olivia isn't just any girl. She's from Istallica, and she's the daughter of its current king, Silviard von Istallica. Olivia's real identity finally slams into the spotlight. She's not just Olivia. She's the second princess of Istallica, Olivia von Istallica. Anon Klain can't believe it. Olivia isn't just anyone, she's royalty. So yeah, Ein isn't just someone ordinary, she's a true noble. Leaving everyone in absolute shock at the revelation. Olivia hurried to Ein and apologized for hiding her royal status from her. Ein was still reeling, trying to wrap her head around why a princess would willingly tie the knot with the Roundheart family. Olivia pulled Ein into a tight hug and said she only did what had to be done, while Christina stood there watching with a hard, serious stare. Olivia calmed Ein down, telling him she'd explain everything when the moment was right. Then Ein actually accepted her answer. Christina clocked that Olivia was suddenly way more relaxed and bright than she'd ever been. The whole group dug into the crystal Ain had handed over, and Christina's eyes widened as she realized this wasn't some random gift at all. It was a rare star crystal. Christina beamed and said, "Handing over a star crystal is a proposal." Ein, Olivia. Then it hit every single person around them froze, stunned beyond words, as the truth suddenly landed. Ein's heart dropped when he realized he'd accidentally proposed to Klain by handing her the star crystal, panic exploding in his chest. Klain beamed and accepted on the spot, while everyone else just stood there, stunned and trying to catch up. And Ein, he was left blushing, shaking, and completely overwhelmed by how fast everything turned. Ein discovered a wild secret in Istallica, the water carriage, a one-of-a-kind machine that runs on special stones. Olivia beamed as she hugged Ein, bragging about how sharp he was, while Christina stared in awe, convinced his mind was pure genius. Christina ordered everyone to rest before they reached Istallica, and right when Ein started to almost blurt out secrets from his past life, Olivia snapped him into a tight hug and beamed like she owned that moment. They kicked back, shared food, and floated through the trip in pure peace. He kicked back, took a breath, and geared up for the next chapter that was about to hit. Ein, Olivia, and Christina rolled up in a plush steam train, then stepped off into the station, right as everything was about to change. A massive crowd erupted into cheers, stunned by the over-the-top welcome that was waiting right there for them. Ein stared at Istallica in awe, not just because its tech was miles ahead, but because the people there were just as wild and different. He even caught glimpses of humans, demi-humans, fairies, and all kinds of other races living side by side, like the kingdom itself was somehow even more unreal. Ein and the others stared in total awe at Istallica, towering castles, breathtaking scenery, the whole city just stealing their breath. Everything felt gigantic and unreal, so unreal they couldn't even speak. And Christina strutted in, beaming as she proudly announced her comeback as the Knight's vice-captain. Ein strutted like she owned the place, but Olivia burst into a joke, calling her clumsy. Then Christina swept in and told them to enter the Grand Castle, right after giving them a sharp warning to watch their step. Olivia teased Ein nonstop, determined to crack a smile and lift him out of the recent chaos. Christina stormed through the castle, dragging them right behind her. She admitted she never told the king Olivia had suddenly come back, because it was a total shock to everyone. Olivia tried to save the moment by teasing Ein while they trailed Christina through the castle. Christina finally confessed that she didn't warn the king either, since the orders hit so fast. Christina finally said the king was stuck in a meeting, and everyone had to decide, were they about to barge in or wait? Olivia strutted in with full confidence and declared, loud and clear, that she was back, right to her father, shocking every single person in that council room. And with nerves sparking, he finally squared up to the towering king of Istallica. As soon as Anne understood how huge this meeting was, the king's arrival swept into the room, and it hit her hard, leaving a lasting impression. Ian stood right next to Olivia while the king leaned in and studied him like he was hunting for the truth. The king's eyes widened at Ian's calm under pressure. This wasn't some ordinary kid. And while he reeled, Ian could only stare, stunned that she'd finally face a royal this powerful in the flesh. Ian's nerves kicked in, and her hands started to tremble. He stepped up to the king, announced his long-lost family name, Roundarth, and as the room held its breath, Olivia stood right beside him, backing him with full support during the formal introduction. King Silvered Funnish Talaka leans in and tells Ian, he isn't just the king, he's also her grandfather. Ian is stunned, then joy bursts through him, while the king grins warmly back at his face. Ian meets Lloyd Galatia, the man who runs justice and peace in Istallica, and right away the king busts out laughing, saying Lloyd is his father. Then Ian slips up and brings up her old family name, and she can't help feeling weirdly awkward about it. Olivia drops the bombshell, she's divorced, and vows she'll never come back to Haim. The king doesn't flinch, he calmly takes it in like he's already won. Lloyd gapes in shock and demands the truth, and the whole crew erupts in reaction the moment the news hits. Olivia drops her real reason for not coming back. She can't believe Ian would ever be happy staying in Haim, and it floors everyone, especially the king and Lloyd. The king slams the meeting to a stop, orders everyone to lock every detail away as a secret. Then he demands Olivia lay it all out later, and right after that, he barks orders to summon Warren and Kadima. Warren and Kadima step into the room, and the whole atmosphere flips instantly. Even just their presence blasts out a brutal aura, and it rattles Ian, no matter what. Lloyd tries to soothe the boy, saying Warren's just a seasoned knight and it'll all be over fast, while Warren calmly snaps his fingers, all confidence, ready to dive into the mission. Ian's jaw drops when she realizes the talking cat isn't just a cat at all. It's the king's eldest daughter, Kadima von Istallica. She argues that he can't be cut out of the inheritance just because his powers came from his mother's side. Olivia chimes in and tells everyone not to worry about Haim anymore. Then Kadima, all business and no drama, marches straight up and demands the king's permission to explain everything to Ian face to face. Prime Minister Warren Lark steps up and spills the real truth about Olivia's marriage. This wasn't love or some power play alliance. It was all about one thing: the sea crystal, a rare treasure from the Haim kingdom that Istallica was desperate to get. These crystals, shaped from the bones of sea monsters, are the key to forging magic tools in Istallica, and when Ian hears the story, it hits him hard. The normal gear he thought he got from Haim is way stronger, way rarer, and worth far more than he ever dreamed. Warren keeps talking, and he drops the truth. Istallica's magical tools were far superior because they pulled power from sea crystals packed with rare minerals, minerals that used to be plentiful, but now are nearly gone. While other nations slapped magic onto weaker materials, Istallica forged their own wild techniques to crank the crystal's magical power higher, and that's how magic tools spread all across the kingdom. With supplies running thin, Istallica scrambled for alliances to lock down fresh support. The whole deal finally paved the road to Olivia marrying Haim, because Istallica, in return for those crystals, swore she'd protect Haim with her life. Warren reminds them that political strategy can crush the noble with heavy weight, and just like that, the talk shifts to hunting down fresh sources of sea crystals. Olivia steps in like a lightning bolt, calmly but firmly cutting them off, insisting her research is already done. Then she drops the truth. Her divorce doesn't mean she's walked away from her duty. The room goes still as the shock hits everyone, and Ian finally grasps it. His mother's role was bigger than he ever imagined, not just diplomacy, but the lifeline that keeps Istallica's magical power alive. Olivia strode into the royal council and laid out her findings, telling them she teamed up with merchants and adventurers to hunt down a fresh sea crystal source. And then, right in the middle of her report, her research flipped everything on its head with an unexpected discovery. A wild western island nation past Haim called Euro. Yeah, right there. The crystals buried deep under the sea finally surged up to the surface, and the whole council flinched as shock ripped through the room, because this could tip the power balance and breathe life back into Istallica's fading magical reserves. Ian pauses, staring at everything his mother gave, how she poured her time and strength into her duties, even while the world kept grinding her down and treating her unfairly after Grint was born. She never once broke her smile. Everyone respected her, everyone admired her grace and kindness, and she carried herself with quiet, unshakable strength. Even while juggling her duties as a noble and a mother, she never let him out of her heart. She always found a way to stay close, sharing her warmth with him whenever she could. Ian's guilt crashes down on him. He can't repay what his mother has given yet. And when he blurts out his apology, the others fall silent, feeling every heavy word land. The king calmly shuts down his apology, making it crystal clear that they treat Ain like their entire world, a precious soul they'd fight for, bleed for, and sacrifice anything to protect, even when the road gets brutal. Olivia pulls Ain into a gentle hug, her face glowing with warmth, and in that quiet second her heart fills with nothing but gratitude. Grateful she met him, grateful he exists, and grateful for the bond they share as mother and son. Ain stares at his mother like she's a hero, and pure admiration surges through him for every grueling day she's poured into them. All around them, everyone's buzzing about Olivia's growth. She's not just prettier now, she's tougher too. And seeing her dedication, the king wastes no time using this moment to celebrate everything she's earned. Warren strides up with official papers and declares the queen already greenlit it, and the king's face lights up with a satisfied grin. Then the king sits there solemnly before everyone, commanding them to sign the document in front of him. Olivia glides forward and plants her signature, and right behind her, everyone follows suit. Then Kadima jumps in with pure excitement. Her bright cheer cuts through the tension, and the mood lifts as the formalities drag on. Ain just stares, totally baffled, clueless about what that document is really about, while Warren and Lloyd race to lock it in as official witnesses, the moment hangs in the air, right there before the throne. With a booming voice that shakes the room, the king declares his choice. Silvered von Istallica's royal title becomes the stamp of approval, as Ain is officially named a recognized member of the Istallica royal family. And right there, Ain is left reeling, stunned, and realizing his life is permanently different starting from this very second. Ain sits with his past, replaying the moment he was born the minor noble's child in some far-off land, only to get brushed aside like he didn't matter by his own family. But now, right in front of the whole royal court, his name gets shouted with pride. Ain von Istallica. In just one night, the kid the family once tossed aside is suddenly recognized as a real, full-blooded member of the mighty royal clan of Istallica. Before, in front of the grand throne, Ain is stuck in shock while the king's booming voice rolls through the hall, because he's just been named the crown prince of Istallica, and the kid who used to fade into the background is suddenly standing as the heir to the mightiest, undefeated kingdom alive. In the bustling capital of Istallica, word rockets around the streets. Olivia is back after her divorce, and the whole town can't stop buzzing about her son, Ain, who's just been crowned the new crown prince. Curiosity crackles in the air as everyone can't wait to finally meet the young newcomer who's just blown up as the kingdom's hottest topic. In a brutal sparring showdown, Ain squares off against the unstoppable Grand Marshal Lloyd, and somehow her swordsmanship hits so cleanly that even he's left impressed. Lloyd nods, seeing how hard the prince has pushed himself, and how brutal the training has been for Ain too. Ain's proud, sure, but the feeling twists in his chest when he realizes his older brother, who only started not long ago, might already be better than him. Ain stares into the past and remembers how he tried so hard to win his father's, and everyone else's, approval, until his mother packed him up and took him straight to Istallica. Now that he's crowned prince, doubt gnaws at him. Will the people truly accept him? With an egg clutched in his hand, quietly he wishes he had some real talent, something that could prove he matters, while Lloyd just watches in dead silence, feeling that boy's doubt hanging in the air. Standing face to face with Lloyd, Ain watches the Grand Marshal clock a tear in the boy's clothes. Then Lloyd doesn't miss a beat. He snatches a sewing kit and starts stitching it up with his own hands, and it shocks Ain because the mighty warrior's careful, gentle needlework feels completely out of place, leaving her confused and weirdly amused. Lloyd suddenly unleashes a tidal wave of power, and the moment he moves, dozens of spectral arms burst into existence around him, whipping through their work at pure lightning speed. In the blink of an eye, the tear in Ain's clothes snaps back as if it was never there, flawlessly stitched and whole. Ain drops her gaze, stunned into disbelief. Realizing the intimidating Grand Marshal just fixed his outfit with surgical precision and superhuman speed, Lloyd breaks out proudly, telling Ain that the talent he was born with is sewing, and watching her stare in shock. He admits it looks simple, but he clawed it into greatness through years of brutal training, turning humble stitches into something unreal. And even though it's nothing like a typical warrior's power, Lloyd still fought his way up to Grand Marshal through sheer grit and discipline, until Ain's left stunned, then inspired, because strength can be born from the most unexpected skill. Lloyd plants a steady hand on Ain's shoulder, eyes serious but voice warm, and tells him straight up, effort is the real treasure, something that steers you through anything, so he better keep pushing forward. Lloyd tells Ein his fears will slowly disappear if he keeps pushing, and Ein just listens in silence, those words sinking deep until the truth hits. Persistence is heavy, and it's worth it. Ein gets hit with a sudden ambush. Kadama, the energetic cat-girl princess, rockets at him and tackles him with pure excitement, and before he can even react, she yanks him away at full speed. Lloyd keeps his cool as the chaos erupts, calmly clocking her. Then she slips down the hall with Ein right behind her. Ein finds himself trapped inside a massive library, surrounded by towering shelves and endless silence. Sitting across from Kadama, she wore that smug little grin like she'd already won. Still reeling from being yanked away, he listens as she reveals Olivia had sent her to check out something tied to him. Even though her explanation is shaky, Ein quickly clocks it. There's no stopping Ein's curious, mischievous streak. The second Ein starts hanging out with Kadama and Christina in the library, the whole place turns warm and easygoing. And when Kadama spots Ein's status card, he can't help himself. He eagerly studies it, dying to know what Ein can do. Just when everyone thought it was over, his stats suddenly jumped, and then a brand new skill, Absorb, appeared in his abilities like a threat from the shadows. Both girls gaped because that discovery made it clear. There's way more to chase than they ever imagined. Kadama drops the bomb. Ein didn't just get her looks. He inherited dryad traits from his mom, Olivia, and suddenly Ein is reeling, trying to wrap his head around the fact that he's tied to a spirit of nature. Kadama, grinning at Ein's stunned face, lets out a playful laugh and says he might even grow roots from his own body, just like Olivia, and leaves Ein utterly floored by this wild new twist. Kadama tells you the Istallic and the royal family are a melting pot of bloodlines. Humans, Kate Sith, dryads, and more. So their descendants can snap into traits no one ever saw coming from some ancient ancestor. As Ein listens, she spots something weird right away. His stats are climbing way too fast. Shock hits, and Ein finally uncovers the real reason. He didn't even realize it, but he'd been quietly draining magic stones for their power, absorbing the energy like it was instinct, and that rare gift was absolutely terrifying. Kadama tells him it's simple. Monsters gulp down magic stones to get stronger, but humans can't because their bodies turn toxic magic into poison. With Ein's one-of-a-kind toxin decomposition X, he doesn't just take their power, he safely absorbs it. Ein blurts out, remembering an old mess. He once licked a magic stone out of pure curiosity, not even meaning to because it smelled sweet. Chris finally unlocks that rare power and drops the truth. Every demi-human, even elves like her, carries a magic stone inside their body. So she's sure Ein accidentally swallowed hers, which is why his strength suddenly exploded. Ein tries to brush it off, but the shock hits hard, and now he realizes his absorption power might grab onto living beings too, not just loose magic stones. Chris realizes her sudden weakness didn't just show up. During their carriage ride to the capital, Ein somehow drained her magic power without even meaning to. Kadama tells Chris she's safe as long as Ein doesn't fully gulp down her magic stone. So Ein finally exhales and calms herself, while Kadama fires up an experiment to prove whether he can absorb like he thinks. Kadama fires up his experiment and orders Ein to gulp the magic stones straight out of 2 sealed boxes. One was packed with junky stones, and the other was crammed with top-grade gems worth tens of thousands of gold. Ong kicks things off with a cheap blast, quietly drawing in its power, and to everyone's shock he takes it like it's nothing, emptying the whole box in one go with zero trouble. Kadama grins and asks, "So, was it good?" Ein finally exhales in relief after passing the test, and then she can't resist. She grabs a high-grade magic stone next, wondering what kind of flavor it'll hit her with. As he drinks it in, the stone's color drains away like its power is vanishing, and then, right after that, dizziness hits him hard, turning his stomach and making him feel sick. He's grumbling that it tastes like walnut and swears he hates it. So fast, Kadama and Chris sprint over, worried. Then Kadama breaks the tension with a joke. How hilarious that a dryad like Ein can't stand something that literally comes from a tree. Kadama dives in and tells Ein she can't just gulp up unlimited magic power with zero limits. Each kind of magic stone has a strict cap on how much it can jack up your stats, and the better the stone, the bigger the boost. Then she tells her that the high-grade stone Ein absorbed most likely came from the terrifying Black Fallen, and that's why it reacted so strangely. Yet even so, Kadama just laughs, insisting Ein's abilities are already nowhere near normal. And Ein admits it feels like he just unlocked yet another skill. And remembers that the first time he used his toxin decomposition X, it hit him with a brutal headache. But now, he feels totally fine. Kadama credits it all to his training gift, Every drill supercharges his body's immunity and hardens him against pain, so his abilities click together perfectly. Then the door swings open, and Olivia, Ein's mother, glides in with grace. Ein's jaw drops, emotion hits like lightning, and he blurts, "Mother." Olivia barrels in and hugs Ein tight, practically shaking with joy that she's finally seeing him again, while Ein turns crimson and squirms under everyone's stares. Then Kadima beams and announces the tests found nothing wrong with his condition. Relief washes over Olivia as she breaks into a smile, grabs Ein's hand, and insists they've got to go, right now. Then, as they stride through the palace halls, they reach the king before anyone else, and Olivia bows low, apologizes for the late arrival, and calls him her father. Olivia, and the king lined up before a massive, jewel-cold, ornate door, its intricate patterns blazing like they were alive. Curious, cranes his neck and blurts, "Grandpa, what is this place?" His grandfather wears a calm but heavy look as he says, "This is the castle's treasure room, Istallica's most sacred vault, packed with the most valuable artifacts." As the heavy mechanism clicks free, the massive doors grind open in slow motion, and a deep rumble rolls through the hall. Then shelves of gold, glittering jewels, and ancient artifacts come into view. And stares, stunned and utterly lost, wondering why anyone dragged them here into something this sacred. The king tells everyone that Olivia demanded not just an apology, but a reward for everything she suffered. Then he whips his gaze to Ein and says her final wish was simple. He has to hand something to her son himself. Ein freezes, stunned and lost, thinking, what kind of gift could even show up in a place like this? The king steps up to Ein and hands over Istallica's national treasure, Dullahan's magic stone, an enormous gem that hums with brutal power, and he tells her that more than 5 centuries ago a demon lord tore into the Ishtar continent, bringing Dullahan with him. A warrior so unstoppable he could rip the sky and sea apart with one swing, and now that same terrifying strength is sealed inside the stone right in front of them. Ein freezes in disbelief, fighting to accept that a legend, an artifact that great heroes only talk about, is actually being handed to him. The king starts telling the story of the ancestor who crushed the demon lord and forged one kingdom, and Ein just stands there, stunned, because he can feel it. Everyone in this room knows exactly how massive that hero's greatness is. A weird warmth blooms in his chest, his heart hammering as he clutches his uniform tight. He can't figure out why it hits him so hard. Olivia gives a gentle smile, like she's telling them to move on, while the king reminds her that even if the stone is called a national treasure, it's just one piece of many the royal family keeps locked away. Ein, still reeling, can only nod as the heavy truth of his heritage finally starts to sink in. Ein strides toward the glowing relic, and his heartbeat thunders through the massive, echoing hall. The king snaps at Olivia to stay back, telling her that even getting close to the stone's monster-level magic could wreck her. She nods fast and pushes her father to retreat too, while Ein stands alone in front of the artifact, bombarded by its crushing power, every heartbeat and every step dragging her down. Iron strides up to the glowing relic, its furious light flashing across his eyes. The king and Olivia hold their breath as he stretches his hand out, and the poisonous magic stone aura dies off completely around him. The moment Ein's fingers make contact, a brutal surge of raw power slams through his body, so intense it nearly knocks him out, and the energy roars back from deep inside him. Then, faint as a whisper through time, an ancient voice echoes inside his mind. As Aim clamps his hand around the magic stone, dark energy explodes from it like a wild storm, whipping around him in furious spirals. His eyes go wide with pure shock as that unstoppable power crashes in and swallows him whole. Olivia blurts out in panic, and the king snaps into action, moving fast to shield her as he roars, "Stay back." The treasure room shakes as that unleashed force spins wild around Ein, yanking every inch of space toward the center. Ein fights back, but the magic stone erupts wave after wave of blinding light, crackling with raw power until he realizes the truth. It's not getting absorbed, it's shoving itself into him. The ground bucks under the sheer force, and the king screams at him to stop the second anything feels off. Because even with all that thunder, his voice is barely there. Olivia throws her arms over her face as that vicious surge slams into her, terrified while Ein's body flares brighter and brighter, torn between fighting and giving in. Then the magic stone erupts in a blinding blast, and Ein's whole form lights up with raw, out-of-control power, his hair lifting as if the force itself is yanking him up. Lightning tears through the air, and the king shields his eyes as Olivia clings to him, both fighting for breath against a brutal storm of magic. Then the whole room buckles as the light surges, blasting everything in sight, while Ein grips the stone and gets wrapped in a cocoon of blazing energy as wave after wave detonates outward. Power crashes through him, ripping the air apart as if it can't hold it anymore, while the king and Olivia snap their arms up to block the blinding surge, and the whole room gets swallowed by whirling magic and a raging roar of wind until the storm finally starts to die down. Einstein stood there, magic sparks still crackling in the air, and his whole body shook with power he'd never felt before. He grips his hands in shock, and that overwhelming power surges through him like lightning. His status rockets. His stamina, magic, and defense blow past any human limit, and a pulse of dark energy roars from the crown prince of Istallica as a brand new power is born. Beneath the moonlit sky, a girl stands on the august archduke's balcony, staring up at the stars like they're answers. Hand pressed to her chest as she whispers Ein's name, reaching for him across the distance, while the wind whips her hair and her heart swears she'll see him again someday, sealing that promise in the night like a silent message the stars can hear. All alone in her room, she sinks beneath the moon's soft glow, clutching a tiny keepsake that Ein gave her. She gazes at it and his smiling face won't leave her head. A sigh slips away the second she drops her forehead on the desk, and the emptiness hits hard. "This isn't fair," she whispers, gripping the gift like it can still hold him close, its warmth the only piece of him she has tonight. A maid slips into Klon's room to check how her homework is coming along, right as her father asked her to. Calm as ever, Klon tells the maid she's already done everything, and the maid's stunned, because she swore it would take a whole week. Klon only smiles and admits she finished it in a few days by locking in hard, then asks her to tell her father to crank it up even more next time, her quiet confidence saying she'll be ready for anything. Klon stares at her progress, hungry to get even stronger so she can stand proudly beside on the next time they meet. And the maid, shocked by how much Klon pulled off in just 2 days, swears she'll deliver her message. Then she blurts out that the Grandmaster sent word too. He wants her to write a letter to Ein. Claude freezes for a heartbeat, then her face lights up with shock, and she snaps back fast, forcing out an annoyed sigh as she tells the maid to jot down whatever fresh lessons he's cooking up, horse riding, dancing, anything, so it all fits her schedule. Flustered, Claude darts around the room in full panic, freaking out over her very first letter to Ein, and insisting, loudly, that the prettiest paper and best pen matter way more than homework. Clutching a blank page, she turns crimson and freezes, panicking because she's never once written to a boy before. While her maid leans in, amused and giggling at the sight of her lady's rare nervousness, and Claude blurts out protests, swearing she's dead serious about it. Klon, gripping her letter like it's life itself, bursts down the hallway, thanking her maid mid-sprint as she races to find the Grandmaster, only for the maid to shout, "There's no rush, he's not going anywhere." But Klon won't slow down. Her mind is drowning in wine, and every step she takes drags her closer to the things she's desperate to tell him, her face turning soft with pure longing. The scene cuts to her staring up at the moonlit sky, lost in the question of what Ein is doing right this second. After grabbing the national treasure, Ein stands before his family, his whole body humming with fresh, unstoppable strength. Olivia beams at him like he just became a legend, thrilled by how far he's come, while his grandfather scrutinizes the results with pure pride, praising his power as splendid and perfectly fitting for someone who's truly absorbed that relic. And still, the old man leans in and tells Ein to stay humble, because power by itself means nothing unless he can become strong enough to carry it. Ein listens with his full attention, nodding like he just felt the weight of every word. The king leans in and says it looks like everything has gone exactly the way Olivia planned. Ever since her divorce, she'd been hinting she already knew how today would end. So when he learns she buried Ein's power to absorb magic stones, he can't stop asking why she hid that from him, especially when she loves him so much. Olivia drops her eyes and admits that, at first, she just cared about doing her duty as royalty. But once she married into the Roundheart family, their trust rocked her and left her terrified of what comes next. She clamps her dress tight, like her choices weigh a ton, while Ein just watches in silence, clocking every feeling hiding behind Olivia's words. Because finally, Olivia breaks and admits it. She never had the nerve to stand by Logus, her husband. The room goes silent as she blurts out the truth. Ein was born a dryad, not fully human, and her father's eyes snap open, realizing in one shocking rush what she risked by choosing this path. Ein stays frozen in silence, stunned, but she can feel how serious Olivia's words are. Olivia drops her gaze, apologizes to her father, and admits that the moment she chose the divorce, everything that happened today was already woven into her plan. After Olivia spills her confession, the king speaks to Ein with calm certainty, then demands a private word with her as the room goes still. Ein freezes for a second, then nods, shoulders tight, and slips out of the hall in silence. As he walks off, the two left behind settle together on the balcony, staring out over the city lights. And suddenly the mood goes heavy but calm. A long overdue talk is finally about to start between a father and his daughter. The king and Khetamer clinked teacups while talking about Olivia's mess, and the king finally admitted it. Marrying her into the Roundheart family was probably a blunder, especially with that Dryad bloodline stirring trouble. Aim, totally lost in all that crazy talk, blurts out, "What even is a root?" And Khetamer erupts into laughter, straight up saying it means making a child, right as the king sputters on his drink and snaps at her for being way too blunt. Khetamer tells you that for Dryads, love isn't casual. It's a once-in-a-lifetime bond with just one person, and that makes it terrifyingly serious compared to how other races treat relationships. Ein goes wide-eyed in pure shock, as the king calmly confirms it's all true. Kate Ammer keeps talking, saying Dryads can have a baby without a partner, and suddenly everyone's forced to connect the dots. That's how Olivia could bring Ein into the world alone. Ein's still stuck in the dark, staring in confusion, and blurts out what this changes for him, and where he truly came from. Khetamer drops the bombshell. Ein was born from Olivia alone, pulled straight from a piece of her own body, her stump. The king adds that even though Olivia is chained to royal duty to bear heirs, her Dryad nature means she can't treat love like it's nothing. Khetamer says Dryads have a hypnotic charm, and that's probably how Olivia pulled off her marriage. Then the king admits it took everything for Olivia to choose her own path, while Ein just stays quiet and accepts the brutal truth about his strange, unique birth. Ein Kumlai fires back that he doesn't care a single bit what anyone thinks about his mother. She went through hell to give him life, and that's all that matters. The king says Olivia's actions were rough, but fair, because the Roundheart family shattered their promise to let her child be the next heir. Relief floods Ein, her stomach growls at the worst time, and Khetamer bursts into laughter, genuinely impressed that he can stay this calm through all of it. The king grabs Ian's attention and warns him. There's a dangerous relic hidden in the audience hall, the Demon King's magic stone kept like a national treasure. Khetamer then steps in, hard and furious, telling Ian never to set foot in that hall, not even by accident. Stunned, Ein snaps to the truth. This is the same Demon King her ancestor crushed. Khetamer tells him the terrifying truth. When Ein gets hungry, he unconsciously gulps down magic stones, and if Khetamer slips up, he could accidentally swallow one and turn everything into disaster. Ein hears his mom say the first king was a hero everyone revered, and when Khetamer chimes in, he backs it up. That king wasn't just strong, he was kind, and people loved him for both. A true champion, and now I'm asking you, are you curious? Ein asks, would someone like that be famous, even overseas? And Khetamer fires back, every country on earth knows the first king's legend. Ein stares at everything his mother has sacrificed for him, and guilt slams into his chest because he still hasn't repaid her. Confused about his true power and what being crowned prince even means, he starts doubting his own worth. Then determination hits him like thunder. He declares he'll prove his worth and show the Roundheart family, the ones who crushed his mother, just how valuable he truly is. With fire in his eyes, Ein rises to his feet and blasts out his dream, becoming a legendary king who can stand shoulder to shoulder with the very first king. The words ring through the air, and you can feel it. His real ambition just ignited. Ein freezes for a second, his dream of proving he can match the first king suddenly feeling way too proud, until the old man steps in and reassures him that it's not disrespect at all. With a calm, confident smile, he promises to personally guide Ein, handing off the sword lessons to everyone else. And Ein's face lights up as he accepts right away, buzzing with determination to kick off his training that very night. That Katir dynamo lunges out of nowhere and snatches Ein mid-breath, practically vibrating to test his brand-new power, yanking him away before he can even protest. And then the whole story steamrolls forward. The elder watches with a warm smile and softly says that Ein looks just like someone he loved back in the day, his face easing into sweet, quiet nostalgia. Months glide by in calm silence, and then, boom, summer crashes into Istallica. Ein, now brimming with confidence and calm, looks back on those 8 months, packed with hard training and real growth. And as he stands under the blazing sun, a small smile flickers across his face, like he's already gearing up for whatever's coming next when someone calls his name. Ein's training ramps up fast. Now he's dumped in a real forest where monsters prowl, alive and vicious. His mentors grip him tight with a chilling warning, forget practice fights, these things will hunt to kill. Moments later, the bushes start to tremble. Then a massive beast crashes into view. Ein digs in too, planting his feet as his claws bite the ground, and his nerves go razor-tight. Ein finally steps into his first real fight, right against a gigantic, snarling forest rat. His mentors lock their eyes on him as he stubbornly insists on taking it solo, and you can feel the need to prove himself burning bright. He stares down the creature's razor claws and teeth, plants his feet, and braces like one wrong move could wreck everything. Ein swings in fast and drops the first monster with zero hesitation, standing his ground like a wall as confidence flashes in his eyes, and he snaps back into position. More monsters slither out of the shadows, but he doesn't back off. He smirks and grins right into the fight, forcing himself to go even further. After wiping out a string of monsters, Ein stands tall over their fallen bodies, a surge of confidence blazing across his face as his mentors lay into him with praise for how far he's come. But when the laughter finally dies down, a tiny twitch from one of the corpses snaps his attention, like a silent warning that this isn't over. And the defeated monster suddenly rockets at Ein with terrifying speed. He reacts instantly, and with one clean slash, he cuts right through it. Boom, the creature explodes into pieces, and everyone is left staring in shock at his lightning reflexes. Ein doesn't flinch. He just stands there steady, calm as ever, proving he's grown way beyond where he started. Ein unveils his brand new power, Phantom Hand, passed down from the Dullahan, and a dark, ghostly arm stretches out from his own, thrumming with raw magic energy. He tells them he can reshape and boost it with his mana, and that Kadamia's custom-made nail cranks its power even higher. It's the only Black Knight skill he's mastered for now, but man, it screams how fast he's leveling up. Ein fires up her Phantom Hand, slams a blade into the monster, and rips out its magic stone while it's still writhing and alive. He names the ability Pitch Black Straw, stunned by how powerful it is, and by that strange, magical essence it tastes like, while his mentors stare in disbelief, impressed and unnerved, because what Ein can wield is pure wonder and pure terror. Juggling down the road with Chris and Lloyd, Ein suddenly spots a familiar store and blurts, "There it is." Chris tells Ein it's Magellan's, this legendary magic stone shop that even sends supplies to the castle. Ein's eyes light up, and before Lloyd can say another word, she's already eager to step inside and get a look for herself. Lloyd hangs back to dodge the spotlight, then tells Chris to secretly escort Ein into the shop, because his name still hasn't been officially revealed. Hooded in a cloak to mask his royal status, Ein trails Chris into the magic stone store, while a calm, hidden watcher inside keeps staring, oblivious to the danger that's creeping in. Inside the shop, Ein and Chris get greeted by a flamboyant, swaggering shopmaster who oozes confidence, who greets them with a huge grin and a flashy, dramatic pose. Then his thick makeup and over-the-top presence snap straight into Ein's attention, and the boy can't help but feel overwhelmed by what he's just seen. Chris brought the boy to a famous magic stone shop, and even with his nerves on full blast, she swore the owner, quirky as he was, would treat him with kindness and honesty. Inside, a woman spotted Chris and broke into a smile. Man, it had been ages since they last saw each other. She joked that Chris was really playing bodyguard for the boy, and Chris scrambled to keep her cool. The shopkeeper greeted them like old friends, laughing at their sudden arrival, and when the boy felt awkward, he muttered a quick apology and trailed after Chris deeper into the shop. The boy told the shopkeeper he just had to see magic stones, and that one sentence instantly hooked the shopkeeper's curiosity. She lit up with intrigue, praising how rare it was for someone so young to be this curious, and as her smile warmed, she admitted she wanted to be friends, though the boy still hid behind his shyness. She let them roam the shop on their own, but warned them, "Don't touch the stones or crystals, because some of them could seriously hurt them." Chris gently reassured her as they started to scour the place, and the boy stared at the glowing stones on display, their faint crackle humming in the air. Thanks to his absorption suppression training, he could now feel only faint flickers of magic in the air, because back then, even a crummy stone's scent hit him like a punch that drowned everything out. Still, he kept browsing, until one odd item snapped his attention, a strange piece of steak, labeled like it was something else. The shopkeeper told him that the stone was ripped from a white wyvern, a beast famous for its meat. So the boy's curiosity sparked, and he snatched it up on the spot. Chris was totally stunned. The seller slashed the price just to show her respect. Chris leaned in and told the boy to guard his real identity and powers with his life, then said he could use the allowance he'd just gotten from his grandfather, so long as it stayed secret, and the boy nodded, smiling like that plan made him feel whole, while Chris went off to make the purchase. The boy grabbed several magic stones with starry-eyed hunger, and his grin only widened with every pick, until the total shot up fast, leaving Chris staring at the price in pure, stunned overwhelm. The shopkeeper beamed, then wrapped every single purchase with careful, steady hands as they got ready to step out. The boy was barely holding it together, already dreaming about cracking those stones open and soaking them in the second they rolled back to the castle. As the boy drifted through the shop, his eyes snapped to a weird glow spilling from a pedestal, and before he could think, he moved closer. He spotted a dark, ominous crystal locked behind glass, and the moment he looked at it, the air itself turned heavy, nothing like any stone he'd ever seen. A cold shiver ripped through his spine the moment he recognized it, the cursed jewel, the accursed magic stone. The shopkeeper leaned in and spilled the legend of the accursed jewel, one that's said to whisper straight to its owner, then creep into their dreams and take over. Chris realized the case was built to smother its power, and the boy leaned in, eyes wide, hungry for more. But it still didn't convince him. He could feel the stone's presence, yet it never once felt evil. Caught by the dark crystal's pull, the boy leaned in and calmly asked if it could be bought, sealed case included, and that simple question left everyone in the room stunned. The shopkeeper froze mid-breath, clueless what to say, while Chris's panic exploded as he barreled toward him, pleading, "Stop, please, before something awful happens." And the silence in the shop got so thick it felt like it could snap. The shopkeeper finally caved and agreed to sell the sealed stone, only charging for the display case, while the boy quietly confirmed it was his choice, calm as ever, and let everyone know it was fully by his own will. Chris hesitated, torn between worry and duty, but then she finally caved, because she knew she couldn't stop him. The boy handed over the payment, all grit and nerves, and Chris let out a quiet sigh, resigned to it. As the shopkeeper rang up the boy's purchase, he wandered off to inspect more stones, and Chris's smile faded fast, because that bright, cheerful tone suddenly felt wrong. The shopkeeper leaned in with a cruel grin, laughing about how bold the young prince was, while Chris froze cold, realizing those words she said earlier had just outed him. She tried to mask her panic with flimsy excuses, but the stress was already in the air, and the moment the tension snapped tight, everything was ruined. Right before they headed out, Chris's nerves hit max as she begged the shopkeeper to keep the prince's identity locked up. Then the shopkeeper laughed and promised, teasing her for being the worst at hiding anything. Out on the street, the boy just beamed and said how much he loved the visit. Chris snapped at herself, trying to cover that flustered look by saying, "It's just dirt in my eyes," but the red on her face screamed the truth. Back at the castle at last, the boy finally let his shoulders drop, relieved to crash after an exhausting day. And as night fell, the whole city went quiet. Then a gentle knock sounded at his door. A young maid slipped in with a soft smile and offered to help him change, like she instantly recognized her. The boy greeted her with warmth, and it was obvious. Marchit was the one he trusted most. He still hesitated, swearing he could change on his own, but Marchit stopped him with a calm, firm reminder. It was her job to serve his mother, and that meant taking care of him too. Her calm smile hit like a thunderclap, and it left him completely flustered. Right before she left, she pressed a sealed letter into his hands and whispered that it was only meant for him. So he tore it open, and there wasn't a single trace of who had sent it. Marsh told them the letter had originally come from a noble family in the Heim Kingdom, then got rerouted through the Euro Kingdom before it finally found its way to them. She reminded him that Istallica had officially severed all ties with Heim after the ugly history between him and Olivia. The boy's stomach dropped as he stared at the letter, panicked. Why would it be sent to him? Suspicion flared, and he nearly tore it up, certain Heim was up to something that could only spell trouble. The letter poured out raw emotion, reliving that precious night and the gift they held dear, the flower the boy once gave, then made it crystal clear. That memory mattered more than any jewel, brighter than anything in the world. As he read the words, it hit him like a thunderclap. There was only one person he'd ever given a flower to. His breath caught when he saw the handwriting. No question about it, this letter was from her. As he kept reading, the letter warmed up with hope. She admitted she regretted hiding her name, then swore she'd reveal it the moment Istallica ever welcomed her. Realization hit him like a truck. Her words were pointing at something bigger, and as the truth finally landed, his heart started sprinting. Klon, the girl from his past, was actually planning to show up in Istallica, and the letter's last lines basically screamed her plan. She'd come, but she wouldn't reveal her name until she was accepted there. His heart slammed in his chest the moment it clicked, no doubt at all. The Klon who once held his flower was coming to Istallica. With that letter still clenched in his hands, Talika decided he'd send a reply, telling everyone that Klon had always treated him and his mother with nothing but kindness. But Marche couldn't shake his worry about what it would really mean for someone from Heim to step into Istallica. Still, he didn't lose hope. If the visitor kept a strong bond with Olivia, he figured they could make it work, and with a smile bursting through his relief, Marche agreed. This was truly great news. Under moonlight, the boy lingered at the window, whispering her name, Clon, over and over. Memories of their shared past surged back the second they traded gifts and smiles. Then, as he stared into the night, a soft, burning hope lit up his chest. As the days stacked up, autumn finally swept in, cool, sharp air filling the streets and making everything feel alive. The boy kept grinding his training, squaring up against a knight in a no-holds-barred spar. From the sidelines, his friends erupted with cheers, screaming encouragement at the top of their lungs, and with steel in his eyes, he surged forward, ready to prove just how much stronger he'd become. During the match, the knight lunged forward, roaring that he came to win, yanking his blade up for one crushing strike, only for the boy to stay icy calm and read every move like it was already written. Right at the last second, the boy lunged and slid aside, barely dodging the strike, only to realize his escape was already read in advance. The knight's grin snapped into shock as the duel flipped and turned in the boy's favor. With a single lightning-fast move, the boy stripped his opponent of their weapon and snatched the win right there. Match over. The knight seemed to surrender as the crowd exploded into cheers, and the boy, panting hard but grinning like he'd just conquered the world, sprinted straight to his mom to brag about his win. She pulled him close, praising his brave fight even with those injuries. The knight praised the boy's hard-won growth and told him that his rare gift, the power of training, lets him get stronger with sheer effort alone, and that his latest victory was the loudest proof that all that grit and determination was finally paying off. Feeling his progress fuel him, the knight threw out a fresh challenge to push the boy even harder, and the kid hesitated for a heartbeat, unsure what was coming next, until the knight grinned like he already knew the outcome, ready to drag him into their next training session. A brutal tremor ripped through the ground, and smoke burst from the distant castle. So everyone at the training grounds snapped around, hearts pounding, not knowing if it was an earthquake or an explosion. The brutal impact shattered everything into ruins, and after the battle drained him, the boy sat there shaking, trembling, while his companions sprinted in to see if it was still standing. The knight seemed to grin at him, proud of how much Chris had grown, strong enough to match the first king. Then Chris reached out with water, but he refused it. But he shot her a warning, stay back, because he couldn't risk absorbing her magic again by mistake. Mortified, she yanked herself away fast, totally flustered by the thought. But once training finally wrapped for the day, the whole group huddled up and started debating the boy's future. Olivia told him it was time to start prepping for the academy because he'd be going this winter. At first he froze, then it hit him. This was the next big step. Olivia grinned and pushed him forward, cheering him on as he stepped into this brand new chapter. The boy stared ahead at his first days in that academy and felt his stomach twist at the thought of standing beside the crown prince, until Olivia stepped in and soothed him, reminding him her father sat on the academy board and that the trip would be completely safe. Chris cut her off and asked if a stroll could calm his nerves, and when he weighed her offer, he felt genuinely grateful for her support as these new changes hit. Chris led the boy through the castle and into a quiet beach tucked away from the world, stunning him with its beauty. Then she casually told him it almost never gets used, saved only for emergencies. As they soaked in the view, Chris leaned in and grilled him about the academy entrance exam. What's your plan? He grinned and said he'd go all in on swordsmanship, riding that confidence from beating the knights. Chris fired back with a full-on, I knew it, certain he'd crush the exam. Strolling the beach, the boy leaned toward Chris and demanded to know if she and Lloyd could beat her father, Logus. Chris stopped for a breath, then chose to show him instead. She raised her sword, aimed it at the ground, and told him to watch like his life depended on it, warning him not to blink and lose track of exactly where it hit. The boy nodded hard, locking in on her next move, while Chris casually tossed her sword to the ground and told him to watch closely. Then, the second his eyes dropped, she slipped silently right behind him. She popped up right beside him out of nowhere, and he froze. She slid in so fast and so quietly that he realized her skills were way beyond anything he'd ever guessed. Chris snapped that she'd vanished the moment the sword clanged to the ground, so fast it barely made sense, then bragged that even Logus couldn't track her moves, and that Lloyd could crush him if it came to a straight-up brawl. The boy realized just how brutal it would be to reach their level, but motivation hit him like a spark. Then, with his exam still fresh and his heart full, he thanked Chris for the encouragement and the break, and Chris just smiled back. He finally started to relax as the wind whipped through, and Chris's hair ribbon snapped loose. The boy stood there quietly, but the moment hit him hard. Heat rushed to his face, and he felt flustered in an instant. But Chris clocked it and shot back an apology, promising she'd tie it up again right away. He waved it off like it was nothing, secretly thinking how damn smart Chris could be. The boy took the train into the Academy district, staring in awe at the massive crowd as it swallowed the station. Everywhere he looked, students, parents, and researchers were packed in tight and buzzing with energy. His companion leaned in and said the whole district never slept because it pulled in every kind of person imaginable, and the boy drank it all in, until it hit him. He was finally at the Academy. The boy finally faced the towering Royal Kingsland Academy, heart pounding as he got ready to smash his entrance exam. Chris gave him a loud push of encouragement and headed for the test hall with pure determination burning in his chest, ready to give it everything. The moment the boy stepped into the Academy, someone in front of him suddenly crumpled to the ground. He shot them a quick, worried look. "Are you okay?" But the person snapped back, clearly annoyed and fed up, while a nearby student barked at them for having zero motivation, and the boy couldn't shake the feeling that this upset stranger looked important or familiar. The boy stared at the strict man in front of the group and realized it was the examiner himself, blunt and brutal with every word, pushing the students to prove their grit and their skills at the same time. Before the test even started, the rules hit hard. Nobody could say their name, so fairness stayed locked for everyone, and the boy braced himself, knowing this exam would crush him, body and mind. The exam grilled their sword skills and martial arts, and even let them use a few special abilities, just no projectile attacks. Then the examiner tore into every single kid's moves, shredding their confidence and calling it all outright failure. When the line finally broke, the boy stepped forward with steel in his eyes, ready to prove himself using nothing but his sword. In the arena, the boy squares up to the examiner, gripping his sword as both of them stand poised for the clash. The examiner smirks and goads him, daring the boy to prove himself and win his approval for entry. The boy rockets toward the examiner, speed blazing and purpose locked in. He dodges the strike and whips in a clean hit, and the examiner's eyes widen, because the kid is way better than they ever expected. The clash is pure chaos, fast, vicious, and relentless, so he slips a brutal strike and rockets around the chaos like he's got nowhere else to be. He tries to weaponize his smaller size to throw the examiner off, knowing they'll stay confused. Then he dives in again for the next move. He waits for the perfect opening, but the second he lunges, someone slams him back and stops the attack cold. The examiner's face doesn't change. He just calls the boy out. He's leaning on his status way too hard, and his technique is nowhere near good enough. The boy's eyes widen as he realizes the examiner is even stronger than the knights. The examiner sneers at his skills, claims no trick will ever work on him, and then drags the boy's teacher through the mud. So the boy forces himself to stay cool because his only mission is to pass the exam, not start a brawl. The examiner tells the boy he won't pull any punches, daring him to quit, but the boy refuses, insisting he wants to keep going. The examiner sneers at the boy, spits that he must have been raised by a fool, and vows he'll fix him by educating him. He stays locked in, eyes sharp, bracing for whatever hits next. The boy replays the examiner's words in his head, then realizes he can laugh off every insult thrown at him. But when someone insults his mother and teachers, determination hits him like a punch. He locks in and shows the real effort he's been holding back in the fight. Ein's smile drops to stone. He goes all in. Then Phantom's Black Knight hand erupts, and dark spectral hands claw into existence behind him, crackling with savage energy. He blindsided everyone, including the examiner, who froze when that sudden burst of power hit. And now the examiner is demanding answers, stunned by the phantom hands and how they just appeared. Ein stands his ground without flinching, refuses to step back, and makes it crystal clear he never even heard of a rule banning his skill. Totally locked in, jaw set, ready to fire off his next move. Two fighters square off in the arena. One stays deadly calm, wielding two snake-like arms, while the other is clearly on the edge of breaking loose. He surges with fury and charges in, swinging his sword, while the calm fighter scoffs, thinking more arms don't automatically mean more strength, because the clash is about to explode. The fighter with the snake-like arms explodes forward and whips both swings at once, but his opponent snaps out of the way, darting around to dodge every single strike as the barrage keeps escalating. The one dodging just won't quit. He darts and slips through every strike like it's nothing, matching each hit with razor-fast moves, and the whole exchange turns into a flash of pure skill as both show off. The eye-patch fighter slams the ground with a bone-crushing air, just in time to snatch the snake-like arms out of the way. He stands there like it owns the ring, barely fazed by the attacks, Meanwhile, the other fighter is gasping for air, chest heaving like he can't keep up. He finally gets it. Those extra arms don't matter, because the smaller fighter keeps countering every move with ease. And when his strikes fail, the smaller fighter surges his snake-like arms full of even more magic, swelling them up bigger and nastier than ever. Sparks burst off the moment he readied his next move, and the eye-patch fighter froze, shocked, then grinning hard as he realized his opponent just turned the stakes way up. The powered-up arms slam into the ground and rip the arena apart, blasting rocks flying in every direction, while the sword-wielding fighter scrambles just to stay in the fight. He jolts to attention when he realizes the attacks are getting even faster, and they might smash the field itself. So he lunges, scrambles, and barely keeps up, dodging and blocking at the last possible second. As the smaller fighter rockets into the air and crashes down shouting, he goes straight for a lethal hit, while the sword fighter tries to respond. But once he clocks that powered-up hand, everything in his timing suddenly feels like it's dragging. The smaller fighter drives the fight to a close with a thunderous hit straight on the mark. Then he pops up like lightning and snatches hold of his opponent's sword. He clamps the blade in place with both hands, and the sword fighter bucks and strains to escape, totally blindsided, because the whole mood flips in an instant, and the smaller fighter braces for the very next strike. The sword fighter slams his blade into the ground, trying to shake his opponent loose, but the smaller fighter clings on for dear life. With a sudden surge of strength, the smaller one hauls himself up, refusing to back off. Then both of them slam their bodies into each other, pushing with everything they've got, not letting go. The tiny fighter whips his magic arm into a brutal strike, but the sword fighter slams it head-on and breaks the ground beneath them. Both of them freeze, stunned that the hit was met and stopped so cleanly. They force their way through the pain, fighting on even as the struggle drains them dry, exhausted, but neither one dares to quit. The smaller fighter surges forward and blasts out another massive move with both magic arms, smashing the ground and blasting up a towering cloud of dust and debris. When the dust finally settles, he's wheezing and drained, yet he stays upright, magic arms cocked and ready for whatever comes next. The sword fighter pushes himself up from the rubble, stunned by the kid's brutal strength and non-stop grit, because he's never met anyone like this before. The smaller fighter jolts with shock. His opponent is still standing, and he can't help but think, how insanely strong is this guy? The whole testing ground is getting smashed to pieces, something that's never happened before, and the fight is so brutal they can't even finish the test. Right after the fight, the smaller fighter blurts out a quick apology, cheeks burning with shame for losing control, and for wrecking everything. He bows, convinced he blew the test. Then the sword fighter just stares at him in cold, silent shock for a beat. While the smaller fighter keeps spiraling about what's coming next, the sword fighter doesn't blow up. He hands over a certificate and tells the kid, "You passed." He admits he gets it. That anger had a real reason, and they both had their sparks in that fight. The kid's stunned, then floods with relief, clutching the certificate like it's gold. After all that chaos, both fighters finally share a quiet, earned nod of respect. The kid freezes in stunned shock for a beat, then bursts into a relieved smile. He bows one last time, watches the sword fighter stride off, and with joy sparking in his chest, he bolts outside clutching his certificate, ready to tell everyone he passed the test. After he passes the test, the kid gets swarmed by a cheering group that congratulates him loud and proud. One of them, clearly fed up, shoots back, "Are you mad?" and confronts him for using a special skill he swore he'd never show anyone, and the kid stands there, jittery and scared. He rushes in with an apology and tries to explain that he knew they sensed his power even from far away, and the girl immediately gets flustered, cheeks burning as she talks to the kid. She admits she can't just brush it off. He used his special skill, even if it was only for the test. So she scolds him, reminding him not to throw that power around so easily. The kid goes quiet, soaking it all in, already thinking hard about what he'll do next. The kid frets that he'll accidentally injure the examiner, but the girl cuts in, calmly, telling him the academy has healers and the examiners are brutal anyway. They're not just random fighters anymore. These two are former adventurers who know exactly how to scrap, and she even laughs that wrecking a tough examiner should get her bonus points. But then she turns serious and warns him. What happened won't stay hidden, it'll reach the king. So he'd better be ready for whatever comes next, because the kid just nodded, and suddenly they both realized this just got real. A few days later, Ein slumps at the table as his dad rips into him about what went down during the test, while his mom stands right there, silently watching. After the scolding, Ein's grandfather steps in and the tension melts away. Ein quickly apologizes, and his grandfather decides to let it go. Ein's family sits him down and tells him he's got to act like royalty. Yet the kicker is he's only 7 years old. His grandfather drops the news. Ein will step into public duties in the port town of Magna. This is Ein's very first official royal job, and his mom is practically bouncing with pride. Ein jolts in surprise, but he leans in and listens like it matters. Then his mind goes quiet as he wrestles with what these public affairs could mean for him. Outside, the scene opens on a calm harbor. One ship sits docked by the water, just waiting. His mother and grandfather turn around and stride back inside, and Amy is left standing there, brooding hard over his new responsibilities. Anne, dragged to the harbor with his family, gets a front-row look at the country's gigantic battleships, pride on steel, and everyone acts like their history in motion. They tell him these ships are forged to guard the borders, and yeah, Magna's got a massive navy base to back it up. Ein can't believe the sheer swarm of ships. Everywhere she looks, it's massive and packed. Then she rolls into Magna, one of the biggest cities in Istallica, where fishing boats crowd the docks. The market is buzzing with fresh catch, and the navy base sits right nearby. Ein's day job is to inspect the battleships, but now they've shoved him into checking the very first batch of sea crystals too. One's tied to a contract his mother signed. And while he's at it, he's also watching the whole city's condition like a hawk. Ein lets Chris and another staff member peek at some raw sea crystals. Then Chris snaps into action, slicing open a crate in seconds to reveal what's inside. So fast that Ein can't tell if it's magic or just pure deadly skill. As always, he can't stop being amazed by how effortlessly she handles everything. Ein leans in and inspects the sea crystals, and they look exactly like salt that's been frozen into something hard and unforgiving. After wrapping up his public affairs work, he makes sure to thank every single person, because that experience changed him. Later, Ein asks his grandfather if he can hunt for a souvenir for his mom, because he knows she's still hurting that she couldn't come on the trip, and his grandpa beams, saying yes. And for the first time, everyone finally chills out together. Ein's mom was crushed he couldn't join the trip, but as the day slipped away, a letter from his grandpa lit up her face and lifted her spirits. Ein tells everyone he's grabbing the chance to hit the pier and stare at the sea, but his grandpa has to talk to Chris about the ships. So Ein nods and holds off on heading into the city for now. Chris demands that Ein wear the Great Earth Ruby, a pendant forged from a dragon core, packed with ruthless magic that shields the wearer's life. Even though they're trapped inside the Navy base, worry gnaws at her. His safety matters most to her. Ein finally gives in, agrees to wear it, and swears she won't wander off while he waits. Ein stands on the pier, soaking up the clear sky and that warm autumn air like it was made just for him. He stares down at the fish gliding beneath him, smiles to himself, and thinks, man, this is the perfect day to nap. Then he laughs, saying that if he weren't a crown prince, he'd just flop down right there and fall asleep. Ein whips her gaze around. He realizes nobody would bat an eye if he crashed for a nap right now. He spots a shady patch beside a crate, drops down, and settles in, thinking, I'm not officially crowned prince yet, but this could be my last chance to actually relax like this. He soaks up the calm like it's a prize, smiling because he nailed the decision. Ein sprawls back, let the ocean's waves lull him, and slowly slips into a sleepy haze. This calm place hits him in the chest with nostalgia, like he's back in that other port town, Round Heart, where the memories never let go. The waves hum like a lullaby, and soon he nods off and falls into sleep. Ein's heart races as he dreams of sprinting through a sea of flowers, right there beside his mother. He plucks a flower, breathes in its sweet scent, and lets himself savor the moment. He blurts out to his mom how amazing it smells as he brings it right up to her nose. He suddenly sneezes, and both of them break into laughter, sharing a warm, happy moment right then. Ein jolts awake, confused and tangled in someone's lap, and that familiar floral scent hits him, hard, like a gut punch. For a second, he swears he's still dreaming of his mother, but the world stays foggy as he scrambles to nail down what's real. The woman leans in with a soft grin and asks, so, if it's been a while, what are you saying first? Or are you finally going to thank me for letting you use my lap as your pillow? So Ein jerks his gaze upward, unsure whether he's truly awake or still trapped in a dream. One realizes he's sprawled out on Klon's lap. She leans in with a soft smile and asks if he wants some water, her kindness hitting him right in the chest. Both of them soak in that calm, quiet moment on the pier. Just the two of them, sharing a warm silence while they stare out at the water, fully enjoying each other's presence. Ein and Klon sit side by the water, trading shocked stories, gaping that Ein's royalty, and that Klon packed up and moved to a whole new continent. They burst into laughter and soak up the conversation like it's the best thing ever. Klon cuts in, insisting she's not alone at all. Then she says she rolled in with her grandpa, Archduke August, plus a few servants, and she points them out nearby. Klon spills that her grandfather isn't the Archduke anymore. He's gone and handed the title to her father because age finally caught up. She lays out everything, their whole journey. After her grandfather retired, he dragged her to the trading city of Birdland, and something went horribly wrong. They vanished for a while. But with Olivia-sama stepping in, they finally snagged a ship from Euro and sailed straight to Istallica. Because of politics, they hushed the details. An archduke from another country showing up could spark a whole mess. Ein throws in an apology anyway, but Klon waves it off and tells him to forget it. Chris wraps up her work and sprints to the pier, where Ein and Klon are waiting. After they're done introducing themselves, Chris shoots Ein a vicious glare for dozing off outside, and it throws him into a full-blown fluster. Chris then swings the invite to Klon. Come with us as we head for Magnus City. And Klon lights up and agrees on the spot, so the whole crew gets ready to roll, with Ein swearing she won't doze off again. Klon bows and asks Ein, calling her Your Highness, Crown Prince, and when she's stunned but delighted, she accepts with a bright smile. Then they trade a proper handshake, ready to step out together. Late at night, Klon and the second princess sit down for tea together, sipping quietly as the darkness closes in. The princess throws heartfelt thanks at Klon for helping her out and setting up their stay. Klon just shrugs and tells her, it's no big deal, and finally admits she'd rather go by her real name, same as last time. They chat openly in a warm, laid-back vibe, and with their royal titles hanging over their heads, they still push to keep everything chill. Over a warm cup of tea, Olivia-sama leans in and gently asks Klon what she's planning for her future. Klon jolts at the question, then listens with full focus, realizing Olivia truly wants to know what comes next for her. The talk shifts into something deeper as Klon starts mapping out her next move, and Olivia tells her, you don't have to hide a thing, it's just us. Klon still remembers when Warren once pressed him about why they even came to Istallica, and this time, Olivia's question hits way closer to the heart. Klon answers without hiding a thing. She sailed across the sea just to meet the Crown Prince, and you can hear it in every word. Then Olivia presses her. So are you really planning to stay in Istallica for the rest of your life? Klon spills that she's trying to figure out what Ein wants, but admits she's not even sure she's qualified to answer. But she's been locked in on this choice ever since she walked out her front door, proving she's fully committed to her new life. Olivia lights up and declares, there's no problem at all. Then she drags Klon to an all-girls academy run by the Queen, her mother, and Olivia quickly clarifies, don't worry, it's not the same academy as Ein's. But she swears this is the perfect spot for Klon to level up, cheering her on to burn bright. Because once she does, nobody's going to be able to deny it. Olivia reaches for Klon, begging him to help her light up and finally shine. Klon swallows hard, tears burning, and nods with a grateful, yes. Late at night, Ein hunkers down in the library and grinds through stacks of books, determined to keep studying until her eyes can't stay open. Marsh frets over him, but Ein snaps back, I've got one more batch of work in me, and then she thanks her. On is locked in on his studies when someone creeps up behind him and drops a whisper in his ear. It startles him so hard he jerks and jumps, and when the lesson finally ends, Ein stretches, looks worn out, but pushes through with pure determination after that brutal marathon of studying. Klon smirks and taunts Ein for freaking out, then catches her there behind him. Ein spins around, stunned, and demands, why are you here? Klon tells him she wrapped up her own studies and came to see how he was doing, and she laughs that he was so locked in that he didn't even notice her walk in. Then she jokes that next time she wants a real, normal greeting from him. Ein asks Klon if she's ready to sleep, and Klon laughs back that she was just about to slip into a bath, so big she tells Ein to enjoy it too. Then out of nowhere, Klon asks Ein, want to go together? And Ein's brain freezes as his face turns beet red, completely flustered. Claude struts in wearing a fancy dress, grinning and blurting that she's late because she had to help her grandfather greet the guests, and Ein just stares for a second before saying the dress looks amazing on her. Then Claude laughs it off, thanking her, and fires back that he looks just as cool in formal wear. At the party, Klon gapes at every inch of Istallica blown away, and she can't stop thinking, wow, this party is drop-dead gorgeous. At night, the city lights blaze like a dream, and even regular commoners can hop aboard the water train. She can't believe how normal magic stones are here, like they're part of everyday life, and what really grabs her is how people handle them. Ein can't believe his eyes. Commoners in Haim aren't supposed to work parties like this, and the shock shows on his face. He even admits it's the first party he's been to, since nothing about him has been announced yet. Klon presses her for the announcement date, and Ein tells him it'll land around next spring, right before she enrolls in the academy. They're laughing about getting ready to give a speech, and Ein's like, maybe I should learn to talk like an elder, even like the first king. While Klon chimes in that he could borrow inspiration from someone he truly looks up to, so the whole vibe stays easy, light, and carefree. At the party, a bunch of nobles grumble that someone from Heim got invited, claiming they'll soil Castle Ein. And while Ein and Klon catch every word, they can't help wondering what the Prime Minister is really up to. Even with all the gossip swirling around them, Klon flashes a smile, tells Ein she's totally fine, and insists they just enjoy the party. Then she slips her hand into his, steering the night back toward calm. Klon slips away from Ein for a second, grinning as he says he just spotted some great food, and he'll bring some back. Right then, Ein gets cornered by his grandfather, who demands, "Where's Klon?" Ein says she went to grab food, and his grandfather leans in with a cryptic grin, warning him that the king has a special gift waiting for him at the party, and he should be ready to be blown away. Ein's grandfather leans in and tells him straight up, the king is crushed over what went down at the party in Heim. He blurts out that announcing Ein at this party sounded like a perfect idea. Then something slams into their conversation and cuts him off. Suddenly, a plate crashes to the floor and shatters into pieces, and Ein's attention snaps straight to it. At the party, a nobleman storms up to Claude, rage blazing in his eyes, and snaps, calling out. He sneers at her like she's nothing but a backwater bumpkin from Heim, then demands to know how she dares show up. And boom, the whole room tightens with tension. Ein's grandfather snaps back, muttering about how stubborn this noble is, and decides he'll step in to deal with it. Meanwhile, Lon looks sick with worry, clearly uncomfortable with what's unfolding. A smug nobleman lunges to intimidate Klon, thrusts his hand toward her, and growls that he'll show her exactly where she belongs. Ein shoots in, clamps down on the man's wrist, and halts him mid-move, then calmly asks if he's got any business with his guest, leaving zero doubt he's protecting Klon. Ein steps in to defend Klon, snapping back that she's the Prime Minister's guest. Then the nobleman sneers at Ein for barging in and says, "If you love Istallica, it's only normal to despise the people of Heim." But Ein warns him there's a line he mustn't cross, and that nobleman shrugs and ignores her. Klon rushes in to stop Ein, but right away the other guests start whispering that they'll never forgive what Heim did to Olivia Sama. Like Heim's just some inferior country, and that makes it even worse. Ein can still remember the nights with his mom when they had nowhere to go, and how she ripped him out of Heim to save him. He insists it's not Klon's fault. This chaos is happening because nobody recognizes him, and he can't even muster the power to be seen or determined. And this time he decides he'll rely on his own power to fix it. He clamps Klon's hand tight, ready to move. Ein steps right in front of Klon and tells the whole crowd, "If you've got beef with Heim, then aim that rage at me." Klon's eyes go wide at his daring move, and the entire room erupts the moment Ein speaks. The angry noble's face crumples with shock and nerves, while Ein's grandfather just grins like he's watching a perfect show. Then Ein stays calm and tells the noble, straight up, that he understands exactly why it hurts to see the crown prince lose his inheritance to Heim. And he doesn't blame him for feeling that way, because the noble panics instantly, blabbering that he's got zero complaints about the crown prince. Ein's mind snaps back to his past, rage at his own weakness burning in his chest, blaming himself for every hardship he shoved onto his mother. Then it hits. His family tossed him aside, and somehow he convinced himself that being looked down on was just how it is. But after he met her, everything flips. He finally gets the chance to prove he's not what they dismissed. Ein steps forward, snatches the glowing object, and declares he wants to apologize for his weakness to everyone, because things aren't like before anymore. The noble panics, convinced Ein is about to cause trouble, but Ein stays ice-calm and tells him, "Don't worry." Ein lets his hand rest on the huge blue magic stone. Then it bursts into glow, spilling power into the air. Everyone goes silent as the blue stone starts to turn see-through, right before their eyes, and the guests erupt into stunned chatter. Because they can all feel it. Something truly extraordinary is unfolding. Ein lifts the now transparent platinum stone high, daring the whole crowd to watch him refuse the monster's power. Then he declares, with zero doubt, that this platinum is the same one the first king once cherished. He stands dead center in the room, chin up, and dares the crowd. "So, you still think the pride of Istallica is weak?" The older man watching him snaps with surprise, staring like he can't believe how much Ein looks like someone he knows. Then the whole mood in the room flips instantly. Ein stands over the crowd, gripping the platinum stone and thrusting it high like a signal to the whole world. He booms out his name, Ein von Istallica, and tells everyone straight up, if Klon's causing trouble, bring the complaints to him. Then he grins and adds that if anyone's still got an issue with him, they can show up at the castle anytime. The whole room just freezes, staring in stunned silence like, wow, that confidence is unreal. Ein thrusts the platinum crown high into the air and roars to everyone in the room, promising, now that he's the crowned prince, that he'll rise into a king worthy to lead Istallica, just like the very first king once did. The entire crowd freezes in stunned silence, because his sheer grit and unshakable confidence are impossible to ignore. Then Ein drops that bombshell declaration, calling him crown prince, calling him highness. Ein, visibly on edge, slips in and asks everyone to let Klon stay right beside him. Klon freezes in shock and gets hit right in the feels, while Ein just stares at himself like, man, I did it again. I blurted out whatever was in my head. Everyone around AIM erupts with emotion at the announcement. Some feel pure relief, others swell with pride. The king nods at what just happened, and Ein realizes that from this day forward, everything changes. He didn't just rise. He earned his place and became the crown prince of Istallica for real. A few days after Ein declared himself crown prince at that party, Istallica throws a massive public event for everyone. Fireworks explode in the sky. The castle lights up with decorations, and Ein steps up as the new crown shines, and the crowd roars for him. After the announcement, people gush about how fearless he was in protecting Klein, even when the magic stone's power was staring right at them. And the king confirms that everything went off without a hitch. Klein shoots on a grateful look, shoves a drink into his hands, and the whole room finally exhales. Then the king starts talking about how normally he'd punish Ein, but since she's already taken so much, Warren lets it slide. He tells everyone the nobles are blown away by her, and that once word gets out about the party, the whole story will spread like wildfire. They also clocked that Ein's voice sounded almost identical to the first king's, like he'd learned it from nowhere, even though nobody ever told him a thing. Warren's convinced Ein probably stumbled on it somewhere, because he's obsessed with the first king. Then he drops the real bomb. He's got a report about Lady Klein. Warren laid out claim 3 education paths, each one a ticket to becoming a civil official, to be trained like a queen, or to become a princess who bends hearts and sways the whole crowd. The king leans in and demands to know which one she picked. Klein chose a dangerous dream. Go after a top education, rise into someone who could sway the masses, and master the strength to protect the king. Ein listened to her pour out her determination and the dreams she wanted next, and then it hit the king. Klein had chosen all 3 paths she was offered. Both elders lean back and marvel. How lucky the next generation is to rise, praising the unstoppable growth and huge promise Ein and Klein are already showing. Again, they fall into a quiet agreement, and hope surges in their hearts like the future just unlocked. A grand farewell ceremony explodes into motion. Ein, Klein, and Olivia stand right in the center as guards close in around them, ready to escort their last goodbye. Cherry blossoms drift through the air as Olivia checks, one last time, that Ein and Klein are truly ready to set off on their journey. Ein and Klein are fully pumped and raring to jump into the new chapter. Each heading to a different academy, and Olivia tries to squeeze into their send-off with a hug only to be told she can't go with them. Still, they make her a promise. They'll give it their all. Olivia frets over Ein, but Chris steps in and reassures her. She'll be escorting him herself. The crew immediately warns, if Olivia shows up at the academy, the place will explode into a full-on scene. Ein hugs his mother goodbye, then heads out with Klein, ready to storm off to the academy. Ein strides off to the academy, re-smiling like nothing can stop him, while Olivia watches with a soft, hopeful smile, sending him off, ready for the brand new chapter about to begin. The whole crew rolls up to the academy, flanked by tons of other students and staff, like the place is already buzzing for them. Ein slips up to the packed academy entrance, and the crush of people hits her like a wave, leaving her overwhelmed. Chris tells him, don't worry, I'll drive you to school safely every single day, even if my words won't stop ringing in your head. Ein can't seem to calm down, and he keeps asking himself if he'll ever feel at home in a school this prestigious. Right as he hit the academy entrance, Chris snaps his fingers and shouts for a student named Dill. Dill strides up to Ein, greets him with respect, and Chris jumps in, ready to introduce them both. Chris steps up and hypes Dill Galatia like he's the son of Lloyd and Marchit. Ein and the crew get thrown for a loop when they mix things up and assume Lloyd and Marchit are a married couple just because he's so much taller. Lloyd and Marchit are suddenly side by side, and the shock hits the boy so hard he can barely believe his eyes. A woman leans in and tells them, Lloyd may still be an apprentice knight, but his skills are already unreal. He'll protect everyone around him. She adds that Lloyd and Marche both work at the castle, so they keep their private lives locked down. The kid's stunned, because he just realized he never knew they were actually married. Dil Galatia strides in as the new bodyguard, declaring how honored he feels to protect the young prince. Then a messenger rushes in with a message straight from the king. They tell the prince this setup is his real training ground for leadership. No stiff, overformal manners and no false humility toward Dil. But he still has to respect him, right down to following the king's orders. The boy greets him with total warmth, flashes a friendly smile, and reaches out his hand. Dil straightens up with perfect composure, bows back with the same respect, and just like that, our partnership is officially born. Dil drops into a respectful bow, overflowing with honor as he pledges himself to the prince. Then Ein steps in like, "Come on, just use my name," trying to cut the stiff formality in half. Dil politely shuts it down, insisting on staying at a proper distance as the bodyguard. Ein can't help clocking just how stiff and stone-serious Dil is. Then the woman snaps at Ein to not come back after school without Dil, right before she walks away. Ein can't stop worrying. What if everyone thinks he's unreliable just because he keeps needing someone to watch him? Dil walks beside him and confirms the academy, giving them zero welcome, then promises to lead the prince around after class. Ein nods and says he'll just wait in his classroom until that moment. Ein and Dil burst into the academy, and Dil tells her she's been placed in the very first class, while Ein gapes at the massive, ornate door like it's daring her to step in. Ein gapes at how grand the first class looks compared to the rest, and Dil snaps in to explain it. Only the top students get placed here, and even the door's design screams that difference. Dil tells them that Royal Kingsland Academy puts raw skill first, training nobles and commoners alike who want to rise up and help the nation. Once he's gone, Ein steals his mind for what's coming, fixated on that massive door with no handle, like it's daring him to figure it out. He studies it until it suddenly swings open by itself, snatching the breath right out of him. And when it happens, Ein is left gaping as the massive door opens on its own. He steps into the classroom, and the first thing he can't stop thinking is, why on earth would something this advanced be built for a place like this? He's met with a breathtaking lecture hall, slick, elegant, and packed to the brim with students. Some students leaned in with curiosity, others shrugged and tuned out, and one guy was literally asleep through the whole class. Ein scans the classroom and spots just a handful of students, and for the first time, relief hits, like maybe she won't have to fight for space. Right after that, the door swings open and their teacher strides in as Rook, the instructor for magic engineering, while their homeroom teacher urgently begs everyone, "Don't miss a single one of you, be here on the first day." Rook tells them their class is special, and the moment another teacher retired, they got handed to him. He keeps his expectations razor simple, just one thing matters, get results. Right after he delivers that short, sharp speech, he just shuts them down and walks away, leaving the whole class staring in shock at how brutally abruptly it ends. Before Rook walks out, he drops one last rule. Students can ditch classes if they can prove themselves, but they still have to clear the test that gets held twice a year. Right after he leaves, a cheerful student named Roland strides up and introduces himself to Ein, telling her he got in through the magic engineering exam. Then Ein's jaw drops at just how much freedom this academy hands out. While Roland shrugs it off with a laugh, Ein leans in and talks with him, and when he says he joined after the swordsmanship test, she can't help but whisper her hunch. Roland might be a demi-human, maybe even a war wolf. Suddenly, Roland clocks it. They're whispering about Ein like she's a myth. Somebody swore she beat a seasoned examiner and even wiped out the test arena itself. And once that rumor starts flying, the whole class erupts in stunned chatter. As rumors swirl around him, Ong gets flustered and tries to play it cool, cracking jokes about totally losing during the test to tame his own reputation. Yet Roland only ends up admiring him even more. Before Ong could even finish his introduction, everything was already about to explode. The door swings open, and Dil strides into the classroom, right as the students burst into whispers, shocked to see the Grand Marshal's son walking straight toward Ein. Dil strides up to Ein and bows deep, calling him Your Highness with all the respect in the world. He shocks everyone in the room and blurts that he came to guide Ein around the academy. Then remembers, with a jolt, the school's free study system is on a whole other level. When Dil reaches out his hand, the other students gape, shaking with awe because someone of his status is bowing so openly. Ein grins at Roland, introduces himself like they're old friends, and asks him to hop onto their tour of the academy. Roland's cheeks burn as he stammers and refuses, claiming he's got more work to wrap up. Then Ein takes Dill and walks off, and Roland just freezes, stunned, because the sweet kid he'd been talking to so casually is actually the crown prince. Dill hustles Ein through the academy, pointing out massive buildings and unreal facilities, then stops at a library so huge it basically rivals the castle itself. Ein thanks him for the tour, totally stunned by how huge the place is. Then she can't help but ask if Dill intends to stick by him the whole time at the academy, because she's dying to know how that works with Dill's classes and training. Ein snaps that Dill can't toss his own schedule aside just to watch over him, but Dill digs in his heels, because the prince's safety is his #1 priority. Seeing how way too serious Dill is, Ein tries to snap the tension, and out of nowhere she blurts, "So, what kind of women do you like? Long hair, the right vibe, kind hearts," and it instantly throws Dill completely off guard. Ein tries to break the tension by asking Dill what his ideal type looks like, praying it'll help them finally click. Then Dill pauses. He says he likes a woman stronger than he is, and Ein's face lights up when she remembers Chris. Dill calls her out for the sudden shift, and Ein panics, blushing as she admits she just wanted to understand the person keeping him safe. Dill straight up admits he wants someone just as tall and solid as his dad, built like a tank with a mean, well-defined physique. Dylan's jaw drops at the description, but he still pushes him on, telling him he truly hopes he'll find someone like that. And when Ein's words hit, Dylan quietly thanks him because most people just mock his taste, and this time it actually makes him feel seen. After years of tugging at the same thread, Ein finally gets Dill to sit down, inviting him to lunch so they can talk for real. It's a tiny move, but Ein treats it like a giant leap, and when Dill nods and says yes, they fall into step side by side, right as a real friendship starts to bloom. At lunch, Ein daydreams about cracking jokes and sharing a friendly meal with Dill, but real life hits like a slap. Dill looms nearby, scanning the area, while Ein chomps in tense silence, realizing they're still nowhere close, and just awkwardly pushes through his food as the story cuts over to the Liabai Female Academy nearby. At Liabai Female Academy, a girl named Klon bursts into the scene like the start of a storm. The clan gets surrounded by buzzing classmates who can't wait to bring her straight to their noble relatives. They gush about her beauty and her rank, but she smiles politely and turns them down cold, saying she's just a commoner and won't drag herself into ties with nobles. Inside, though, her breath catches with a quiet sigh because, yeah, this kind of talk always finds her. Klon smiles and thanks the girls for their praise, then warns them that if anything goes wrong, the Prime Minister will take the blame. So the others immediately scramble to apologize for dragging her into it so fast. And she flashes them a gentle smile, saying she really hopes everyone can get along. Her warm vibe hits the girls like lightning, and suddenly they're blushing and buzzing with excitement. Klon can't stop thinking about the day she transferred to the academy Olivia once called home, and she vows to squeeze every last drop out of her short time there. Right there, walking shoulder to shoulder with her classmates, she swears she'll never waste a second, and she'll pour everything she's got into whatever she can do right now. On the edge of Istallica's capital, right inside the night station, a tense night explodes into chaos. Under the moonlight, a cell sits broken open, bars shattered, while a stunned man blurts that the night alarm just screamed. A prison break has happened. Night after night, the prison cells lay in chaos. Everyone was stunned the inmate escaped, even though that reinforced door only opened with a special magic tool, and there wasn't a single trace that it had been tampered with. The commander slams out the order to call the castle and demands every station knight by name. Then they identify the fugitive. Sloth, a rare vampire demi-human and former adventurer turned cold-blooded killer, slaughtering countless people for pay. Under Istallica's moonlit sky, where the night feels alive, the escaped vampire sprints across the rooftops, his cloak snapping like bat wings, while the night races to catch him before he slips away. He slips into the night with a sinister grin, finally free to unleash the chaos coming for everyone. A full week has slipped by since Ain enrolled in the academy. After he and Roland split up, he strides beside Dill and Dill hits him with, "So far everything, es been good, right?" Ein smiles and says yeah, but admits the school's weird freedom keeps tossing him off, like he doesn't know what he's supposed to lock onto. Then he drops a rumor. Their class's teacher got swapped out of nowhere, and Dill's face flickers with that quiet, subtle reaction. Dill drops a bombshell. Wolf Magnus, the former teacher, got fired for his actions and beliefs that totally clashed with what the academy stands for. Once he ran the pharmacy and mastered monster poisons, he came from a noble family tied to Dill. Until discrimination against commoners from his past got him thrown out. And it all came to light in the background checks run right before Ein's enrollment. Dill steps in and says the man they tossed out came from a noble bloodline, but he never carried true dignity. They shuffle him into the Knights for watching duty, yet everyone knows he's got a past full of misconduct. Dill says the man absolutely earned something harsher, but Ein shuts it down. She won't defend that kind of punishment either. He sits back and realizes nobles and commoners aren't all that different, because even with a crown on his head, he refuses to act superior or sneer down at anyone. They still praise Ein's perspective, calling it a beautiful way to see the world. Ein, desperate to shatter the stiff formal vibe, urges Dill to talk with him more casually. But Dill refuses with a calm, polite firmness, insisting that as his bodyguard he can't risk any informality, so he keeps standing there steady, composed, and fully on duty. Chris slips away to tell the guards something, and she orders Ein to stay right where she is while she's gone. Ein nods in agreement, but the moment he clocks how packed the city is, unease crawls up his spine. Stuck in that loud, crowded street, he somehow just doesn't blend in, awkwardly standing there like a spotlight, pulling every passerby's gaze toward him. Ain't spots a bunch of girls rocking the same uniform as Claude's, and instantly clocks them as the students from the Labe Female Academy nearby. Why two intimidating men corner the girls and bark that it's unsafe to walk without their bodyguard, then shove their so-called protection on them as the girls panic and refuse. But the men only get pushier, turning the whole street into a tense scene. Ein steps in without a shake, tells the men to back off, and calls out the obvious fact that they're clearly bothering them. The men glare at him, sneering that he meddled and calling him a wannabe hero, while Aim stands her ground, tells the girls to back off. It's fine. And then the thugs surge forward, furious that he just blew up their whole operation. One thug snaps with rage and swings at Ein, yelling that he'll regret butting in with adults. Ein slips out of the way in a flash and lands a counter before the thug can even blink. Instantly, Ein grabs the man's arm and flings him to the ground like it's nothing. He hits hard, groans in pain, and then Ein calmly reminds everyone that he attacked first. The remaining thugs snap to attention when they realize Ein is from the Royal Academy, but they still rush him as a pack, convinced they can muscle down one kid. Ein nervously lifts both hands up high, desperately trying to cool things off and blurting out an apology. But the more awkward he acts, the harder they laugh, smirks spread as they think he's terrified, completely missing the fact that he's just quietly sizing everything up. Ang squares up with the defeated thugs just as Chris storms back from her patrol, seething with anger, and Ang snaps at her, reminding her she told him to stay put while those knocked-out men are sprawled all around behind him. She awkwardly admits she's right, then apologizes with a frustrated sigh. Even with her irritation simmering, she gives in, tells him it's fine because he only meant well, then laughs and teases him, because somehow he always manages to drag himself into trouble. The whole crew steps into a massive grand hall, where ancient weapons and buried treasures line the walls like history just came alive. As Ian strides along with Chris and Laurel, Chris pokes fun at his earlier recklessness, reminding him he only escaped with a light punishment from the king and that dreaded reflection S. While Laurel chimes in, torn between worry and pure relief that he's finally safe. Ein swallows his pride and admits he messed up, grinning that awkward little grin while both women warmly chew him out, because you can feel the love and worry pouring off them. Queen Laurel of Istallica, that elegant dark elf, praises Ein's bravery to the stars, but makes it crystal clear his stunt was still way too risky for a crown prince. Even with that calm voice, you can feel the love in every word. So when they start walking, she teases him by saying she wants to reward his deeds, and casually calls herself his grandma, warm as ever. Curious, Ein trails after her as she hunts through the royal treasury for something that's meant to be his. Then Laurel steps in and drops a dark, ornate dagger into Ein's hands, perched on velvet like it's waiting for him. Its blade is pitch black, carved with razor-thin patterns, and Laurel says it fits him perfectly, especially after he swallowed the Dullahan's magic stone. Even with his doubts, Ein hesitates, until Laurel and the others push back, insisting this national treasure is exactly what a royal knight should look like. With shaky hands, he reaches out, grabs the weapon, and the instant his fingers touch it, a weird, undeniable power zings through his body. Ein raises the dagger, and a faint glow crawls along the dark blade. He can't believe it, but it fits his grip like it was always meant to be there, like the weapon and he are one. Yet the weapons are still waiting. But everything about his balance and aura clicks into place like it was made for him, and Laurel beams as she asks what he thinks. Even Ein, still reeling, finally admits that this dagger feels like it's grown into his own arm, like this gift has a bond far deeper than either of them expected. Ain beams and blurts out a happy thanks to Queen Laurel, calling her Grandma, and the realness in his smile hits so hard that her heart skips a beat with surprise. The others burst into warm laughter as the tension finally loosens, and Olivia and Chris rush in to slam Ain into a hug, praising him nonstop for being so cute, and somehow even cooler than before, while the cheerful chaos spirals, and the boy she just rewarded gets totally smothered in affection. Ain flashes his brand new dagger like it's a treasure, grinning as he tells everyone his grandmother gave it to him, and the elegant blade grabs every eye in the room. Even his classmate can't help but compliment how perfectly it fits him. Just as they're talking, a tiny cat-eared girl hops onto the bed, pouts hard, and barges in totally ignored. So she snaps that they need to listen right now, and Ain shoots her a quick, embarrassed apology, finally turning his focus to her. The whole group huddles together to stare at a mysterious black crystal trapped behind glass, and the cat-eared girl blurts out that Ain snatched it from Majolica's store. Yet she can't make sense of it at all, like it's choking every analysis. Even after devouring countless books, she still can't find a single clue about what it really is. So Ain pushes her to hit the Academy's library, where the answers are said to be richer than anything in the castles. Still, when they start looking, nobody can say they're sure about a thing. The cat-eared girl taunts Ain, sneering that he's a worthless crown prince, and it instantly boils his temper. Snapping, Ain grabs her and yanks her sensitive ears, and she yelps in sharp pain. His friend snaps at him for going straight to violence, and he awkwardly mumbles an apology, admitting that's just how things usually go between them, while the cat girl grumbles that his temper is always out of control. She rubbed her ears and sighed like, "Are you kidding me? This is getting out of hand," while a tense but hilarious vibe hung over the whole group. The cat-eared girl fires off a wild idea to handle the cursed magic stone. She tells Ain to try absorbing a sliver of its power himself, but Ain balks, calling it a brutal, dangerous move. But she swears it's safe if he only takes a little, and then she hits him with the real warning. If anything goes wrong, they'll seal or even destroy the room, because there's truly no other choice. Ain agrees to try, tells his friend Clon to step back, and watches as the cat girl finally releases the seal on the stone. As the seal around the cursed magic stone starts to crack, Iron steps closer, drawn in by a weird, irresistible pull, while the others hover on edge, staring hard, tense, and itching to know what happens next. The moment he reaches out, a faint vibration ripples through the room, and Ian's chest jolts with a sudden throb, like the stone is tuning itself to his energy. The others trade shaky looks, not knowing whether this plan is actually working, or if danger is about to explode any second. The moment Ian's fingers brush the cursed magic stone, a vile dark aura erupts like a storm, whipping around him in violent spirals, and then an eerie voice booms inside his head. "I found you." Clon yells at Ain to slam the stone back in, while the cat girl panics because she realizes the voice is coming straight from the stone. Then the power erupts even harder, and Ain fights with everything he's got, body shaking as he wrestles the energy back into the box. Dark energy erupts from the stone, clamps onto Ain, and then, bam, 4 enormous phantom hands tear out from his back as the air warps with raw power, flinging papers and books across the room. Ain gapes in shock, realizing the energy is blasting out of him, this same cursed power that once belonged to a Dullahan. Shocked out of his mind, he can't even understand why this power is back, and why it hits harder than before. Ain's body jerks forward without his say-so, those phantom hands clamping down around the cursed stone as power explodes through him, and the girls instantly spiral into panic, screaming at him to stop. But he can't rein it in. Power gets yanked by force, his grip clamps down, and the whole room starts to rattle as the stone's energy fuses into his body. He clenches his teeth and realizes isn't cutting it. His power is actually eating the magic stone itself. A cat girl rockets toward Ain, clawing at him with desperate strength to yank him back as the cursed power goes berserk. Phantom hands flail, furniture topples, and the floor cracks. She screams at him to stop, but Ain is getting yanked under by the magic stone's ruthless pull. The surge slams back in, tearing through the walls as a brutal blast of power hurls both of them backward. When the dust finally settles, Ain hauls himself upright like his bones are made of lead, dead tired and barely holding on. Then he looks down and freezes. His right arm has morphed into dark armor, thick and alive, faintly throbbing with the same cursed energy as the magic stone. The girls just stare, stunned that this change won't wear off. Ain clenches the new arm, eyes wide and mind spinning, caught between pure confusion and full-blown shock, while the others whisper, half awe, half terror, at what he's become. The cursed stone's power finally crashes down, blasting the room into ruins and choking it with smoke. Ein stands in the middle, and his right arm is now fully morphed into a dark, armored beast that faintly pulses with the leftover energy. Everyone freezes and stares at him, stunned and totally lost, like nobody can figure out what just happened. The magic stone's shattered pieces sit dead in the box, dim as night. Then Ein stares at his own arm, voice shaking as he blurts, "What is this?" While everyone else can only sit there in stunned silence, Ein plants himself at the table and won't stop staring at his armored arm like it's unreal, while the others crowd in, scrambling to figure out how any of this just happened. He admits his body took over on its own, like it was desperate to gulp down that cursed magic stone, and the cat girl snaps that it might be the resonance between this one and the stones he already carries. Ein swears he never meant to absorb it, but the transformation says otherwise, and suddenly the air goes icy tight when they all realize something far deeper is awakening inside him than any of them saw coming. That same day, Ein tracked down Istallica, the merchant who sold him the cursed magic stone, and she told him the truth. Some rare stones hum with a strange resonance, a magnetic pull that drags matching stones toward each other. And sure enough, the Dullahan stone and the Demon Lord stone acted like they'd been tied together back when their former wielders still held them. She swore the stones felt almost alive, like they were hunting for each other, fighting to reunite, and Istallica's warning slammed back into his head. If two resonated too hard, something wild and uncontrollable might wake up inside whoever carried them. After the explosion, the room erupted into pure chaos, shattered debris flying everywhere. Ein slumped on the floor, still reeling from that armored arm that had just taken shape. Suddenly, bam! Someone slammed on the door and Chris shot up in panic from the loud crash. Panic erupted as Klon scrambled to cover for it, but Chris pushed straight ahead anyway. So the whole crew dove for cover, scrambling to hide Ein's transformation before she could spot what it was doing. And right as Chris stepped in, Ein's armor snapped away out of nowhere, turning the room into pure chaos. Yet somehow it looked harmless. As Chris stepped in, she caught the three of them jittering, scrambling to bury their panic like it wasn't obvious. She heard the noise, hesitated, and they awkwardly waved it off. Then she finally noticed the box in her hands. The cat girl's eyes shot wide open, and whatever was inside lit up her curiosity and her nerves all at once. The tension vanished the second the box swung open to reveal a stunning, gold-detailed book, and Ein and Klon stared in disbelief, until she proudly blurted that it had cost her a full year's allowance. Meanwhile, Chris quietly nodded and took her delivery request, still totally baffled by the mess that had blown up earlier. The cat girl beamed as she showed off the fancy book, written by a legendary elf who dedicated their whole life to one obsession, the Demon Lord. Ein's face tightened the second she figured out who, realizing she'd finally locked onto the subject. The cat girl ripped the book open in one breath, no hesitation at all, practically vibrating with excitement to see what was waiting inside. The cat girl went completely still, because not a single word made sense to her. It was carved in ancient elf script, so old and tangled that even most elves couldn't read it anymore. While she spiraled over the wasted effort, Klon stayed cool, tapped Ein's shoulder, and pointed out the strange mark hiding in the pages. As they flipped through the book, Ein's jaw dropped at a portrait of the Dullahan, so human it felt unreal. Then Claude froze when the illustrated man looked weirdly like Ein, and the air snapped tense for a second. Meanwhile, the cat girl kept grumbling that she wanted more than pictures, but Ein was still staring, shocked all over again at that Dullahan portrait. Ein finally snapped and pushed herself out the door, dragging everyone's chaos away while she left the others behind, pouting hard with pure frustration. Then, after they all went, with everyone gone, Chris stayed back to take care of the deliveries, until she spotted that ornate book sitting on the desk, and curiosity hit her like a wave. She snatched it up, staring at the cover, biography of the Demon Lord and his aides, and her eyebrows shot up as she wondered what kind of book could possibly know that much. She inched the cover open, and when she peeked inside the book, Chris couldn't resist. Curiosity took full control. She stumbled onto an illustration of a graceful, mysterious woman, the Elder Lich. Staring at the picture, she completely forgot the time, until a jolt hit her and she remembered her job. Then she raced to scramble and deliver the package she'd totally forgotten. At the school assembly, the teacher blasted the news. There's a competition coming soon in the academy district, and it's meant to forge stronger bonds between all the different academies. Ein leaned in, gobbling up every detail, diving into the world of contests one by one. While it looked like he was studying speech swordsmanship and magic, his cat-tiered classmates' curiosity sparked into full excitement. until she calmly said their class wouldn't be taking part, and everyone else went rigid with shock. Ein realized the upcoming event was only for the higher classes, because the first and second classes were so far ahead in skill that everyone else might as well have been watching from the sidelines. Once he figured out that was the reason their group got the notice so late, he shrugged it off and took it right away. Then after homeroom, his classmate dashed off to do research, while Ein headed straight for the training grounds. Kaiser greeted his instructor and geared up for another brutal day of practice. Triple-checking his armor was locked in and ready for war. His instructor, Kaiser, finally let his guard down. He checked every detail himself, making sure nothing was off before they even started. Right as the session kicked off, Kaiser slammed a control panel, and a magical projection erupted across the arena. Ein's combat exercise kicks off, right here with the signal. Ein got slammed into the training arena, where Kaiser had summoned an enormous red bison right in front of her. The instructor warned him that even if the creature couldn't kill, its hits could still wreck him, and serious damage was on the table. Then Ein grinned and said he'd beaten it before, but this time he wanted to roll out a fresh strategy. The huge red bison let out a savage roar that shook everything around it. It thundered across the whole arena straight for Ein, shaking the ground as it came. While Ein stayed stone calm, yanked his sword, and faced that beast head-on. Kaiser stared in stunned silence as the creature detonated with raw power. And right then, Ong clutched his sword tight and slammed straight into the red bison's charge. The ground split under their feet as both forces slammed together with brutal force. Yet even as the earth shook and pressure crushed down, Ein dug in and refused to be beaten by the beast's unstoppable power. With pure force surging through her, Ein screamed, then launched that colossal red bison flying across the arena. He slammed it to the ground, wheezed through the fight like his lungs were on fire, and then, victory! He roared with pride while the creature fought to get back to its feet. Steam hissed off the beast after their brutal collision, and Kaiser snapped his hand down on Ein's head, telling him off for charging straight into the red bison's attack like an idiot. Ein stammered a nervous laugh, scrambling to spin a justification for what he'd just done. But the instructor's rage only kept climbing, as he demanded I swap those insane stunts for safer, smarter strategies. After a brutal day of training, Ein finally slumped into a cafe and kicked back with his friends. As they chatted, he casually let it slip that he wouldn't be joining the Academy District competition. Even with everyone buzzing about the upcoming exhibition match, my heart leapt the moment I heard Dilly was in it. I couldn't wait to show up and cheer him on. While Ein was parked in a cafe seat, he suddenly clocked Klon and her crew closing in, and it totally caught him off guard. He awkwardly tried to duck out of sight. Then Klon spotted him immediately, and her calm face twisted into a pout, annoyed at how he handled it. Leaving Ein red-faced, stammering as he tried to talk his way out of it, while Klon and her friends slid in and sat at the table right beside him, and the tension hit him like a punch. The air turned awkward fast when the girls started buzzing about the crown prince, then pressed Claude to spill stories about him, until Ein's heart started hammering out of her chest. Her stomach churned the moment they brought up the day the prince saved her, because that whole moment was tied to him. Klon spoke in a warm, admiring voice about the crown prince, and as she raved about his kindness, bravery, and real heart for others, her eyes practically sparkled, while Ein, listening from nearby, felt her feelings crash into each other, conflicted and painfully embarrassed. Yet she kept her steps soft and steady, saying how grateful she was to stay right by the prince's side. Ains fought to keep his cool as the girls fawned over the crown prince, praising his noble heart like it was the greatest thing in the world. Klon looked downright entertained by his reaction, teasing him just enough to make him squirm, and the second she brought up how close the prince was to the first princess, Ein's awkwardness spiked. She finally understood Klon wasn't messing around, she was making life harder for him on purpose. Ein showed up out of nowhere, instantly yanking every eye in the room. Then the girls gasped, because standing there was the prince himself. Klon stayed cool as he said he had business at the castle, and Ein lit up, then offered to walk with her, reaching out his hand. She took it with a soft giggle, her face melting as everyone stared, stunned. Ein grinned as Klon teased him for slipping earlier, and he confessed it was his way of fixing things. Then he carefully cupped her hands, and she instantly flushed, shocked. Right after that, he slipped away with an excuse, and the other girls just stared, shocked that their sweet, charming prince could look so real, then vanish. As a student strode across the academy grounds, he spotted a shady group hanging around the entrance, and the calm on his face instantly cracked into worry as one of the strangers snapped his head toward him with a sinister grin, the air instantly went tight, like trouble was about to explode. Explosions boomed through the grand arena, magic and brutal combat lighting up the air, while that massive structure towered above, pulling crowds in from everywhere. Ein and his companion stared up in stunned awe, getting hit with just how enormous and grand the place was as the tournament hype swelled all around them. As Ein fired him a good luck grin for the swordsmanship exhibition ahead, Dill tried to play it cool, but his nerves screamed through every breath. Ein clocked Dill's nerves in a blink, catching him completely off guard, and when Dill finally blurted out how uneasy he felt, he couldn't hide the shame of showing his weak side to the prince. So Ein just teased him for it, saying it was weirdly nice to see that rare, nervous side of him. Still embarrassed, Dill forced himself to stay composed, refusing to drop his stiff politeness and even refusing to say the prince's name, while Ein smirked, clearly entertained by his stubborn rules. As Dill slipped away to excuse himself, Ein stayed behind, her mind racing, because that glimpse of him felt startlingly human for once. Ein told Chris that Dill still wouldn't use his name, and Chris let out a soft laugh, totally relieved the tension was finally easing. Then, as they geared up for the arena, Ein insisted they stop by the academy first. Chris leaned in and promised, "Don't worry, I'll escort you," since he knew they still had time before the match kicked off, even though he'd just admitted he'd forgotten the pen his grandfather gave him. As Ein strode across the academy grounds, the silence hit hard. Without students, the whole place felt huge, empty, and wrong. A faint, tangled scent from the cafe terrace snapped his attention, and as he leaned in, his curiosity spiked. Something felt off, until a soft rustle from nearby made him freeze. Inside the academy, a hooded man seized a bestiared student and pinned him to the floor with a brutal stomp, then grumbled that the students were on holiday and huffed at the whole inconvenience. The captive tried to talk his way out of it, saying he'd only come back because he forgot something in the classroom. The man just smirked, like this was funny, and admitted there was no real reason to keep him, then promised he'd let him go later, wearing that chilling grin that screamed he absolutely didn't have good intentions. The hooded man snapped his plan on a dime, yanked the terrified student by the collar, and barked that he'd claim him as part of his mission's spoils. He finally dropped the mask and confessed he was a vampire who hadn't tasted a drop of blood in weeks, then grinned like he'd found a gift, saying he'd never once tried werewolf blood before and wondering what it would feel like, while he closed in on the terrified boy. The vampire leaned in so close his fangs flashed, confessed he couldn't rein in his urges, then grinned like a lunatic and warned he might drain the boy dry and end his life doing it. His insane laughter ricocheted through the room, and the terrified captive went rigid, instantly realizing there was no escape from how deadly this had become. The vampire grabbed the bound boy by the neck and hoisted him up, chuckling as his terror spiked the moment the door creaked open. Ein stepped in, and his calm face couldn't hide the storm of tension burning in his eyes. Seeing it for what it was, he snapped his glare at the cloaked man and with a chill, steady voice, demanded to know what he was doing to his friend. The vampire clamped down harder on the boy's neck as Ein interrogated him, pushing him to spill what went down outside. The vampire looked completely unfazed, like your whole threat was nothing. Muttering that everything had gotten unbearable, he even sneered at the fallen men as useless, straight up underestimating the boy right in front of him. A vampire snapped with rage, veins popping as he roared at Ein for making everything harder. Yet Ein stayed ice calm and told him it would all vanish if he just surrendered. The vampire spat back that he'd never crawl back to prison. Then in dead silence, Ein reached for his weapon, jaw set, ready to finish the fight himself. Ein surged forward, jaw set and voice roaring that he'd grab the vampire by brute force. Then they slammed together in a dizzying blur, his blade slicing the air as the vampire darted aside with a venomous hiss. With lightning-fast reflexes, Ein yanked his bound friend right out of the enemy's grip, crushing him to his chest as the vampire smirked, clearly amazed by his speed. Ein snapped and demanded the intruder's name, and why he was really sneaking around the academy. The vampire smirked and dragged his tongue over his wounded arm, bragging that a noble with a grudge had hired him to do it. Then he shrugged like it wasn't worth the fight, packed up to leave, and grumbled that his service time was done. The vampire snapped a smoke screen to life, choking the room in thick, dusty fog, and Ein lunged into action, eyes sharp, breath steady, slicing through the haze as the enemy's voice taunted him, bragging that he used to be an adventurer and swearing he'd never stop being wary of anyone, not even a foe. Ein clenched his fist, eyes blazing with pure resolve, and burst through the smoke like a storm hitting its target. He swore he'd fight back, even if his opponent dwarfed him. Then Ein tried to push through the smoke and felt it. The vampire wasn't just stronger, he was battle-hardened, and the odds were flipping against him fast. Memories thundered inside his head, don't spill your real power like it's nothing. But when he saw his injured friends trapped and suffering in the enemy's grip, his doubt snapped, and his face went stone cold. From the swirling smoke, the vampire burst forward, eyes blazing with pure bloodlust. Then he swore he'd slice Ein open and drink him dry. Right before he could land the hit, the boy exploded with power, air snapping like thunder as his surge slammed the vampire's attack to a dead stop mid-swing. And in one brutal instant, shock and pain twisted his face while blood sprayed as he still couldn't figure out what just hit him. When Ung stood his ground, silent and terrifyingly calm, he snapped his power loose, summoning a massive spectral arm that ripped through the smoke with brutal, unstoppable force. The phantom's hand lunged forward and tore through everything in its way, blasting shockwaves across the room, so hard the floor and walls cracked from the impact, revealing just how much power he'd been sitting on. When the smoke finally thinned, the whole room lay shattered, walls split, and rubble blasted across the floor. Ein stood dead center, and the phantom's hands curled protectively behind him like a living shadow. The vampire stumbled back, eyes wide with disbelief, and Ein's voice sliced through the silence, steady, cold, and accusing him of harming his friend. While the mock in the enemy's tone couldn't shake Ein's resolve, because in that moment he was ready to end it. The vampire snarled with pure rage, blasting huge chunks of debris through the room as his power spiked. And he taunted Ein for thinking grown warriors could be underestimated. And he swore he'd never need his blood again. Then Ein snapped into action, his phantom's hand cutting across the air and smashing the flying rubble to bits before it could even touch him. The impact rattled the whole hall, showing just how brutal the gap in power really was. The more they fought, the more he crumbled back, trade by trade. Then the vampire snapped, rage surging as his scream thundered through the room. Ein, die! He tore forward with feral speed, claws cutting the air as he lunged. But Ein didn't even blink, his power flaring again. Summoning yet another spectral arm in the middle of the swing, the impact cracked the floor wide beneath them, the shockwave rattling the whole building. Then Ein burst a surge of power, and countless phantom arms erupted from the ground to slam the vampire from every side, the sheer force crushing through his defenses and pinning him hard to the floor. The vampire shrieked in pure disbelief and seething rage, his power draining as he fought the assault. Then Ein stayed rock-steady, calm as his enemies, fury curdled into panic. After the brutal fight, Iron staggered upright, wheezing for breath as his phantom's hand finally crumbled into nothing, while the vampire crumpled in the wreckage, barely clinging to consciousness. Shaken but totally unhurt, Roland sprinted straight toward Ein, his face twisted with confusion and worry. Then Ein told him the threat was done. The enemy had been knocked down. As Roland tried to catch up to what just happened, he suddenly recalled that weird muttering man before he collapsed, and both of them stared down at the fallen foe. Ein had just figured out, his strike on the academy wasn't random at all. Someone had planted him there for a mission, and the real goal was still a mystery. Ein and Roland dug through the clues and found the truth. The vampire was a disgraced ex-staff member, kicked out for his conduct. Then Ein clocked the key detail. A noble had hired him because they held a grudge against the academy. The moment it all snapped together, Ein's face changed. And that faint scent in the air, it yanked his memory straight back to the cafe terrace from earlier. Sensing fresh danger creeping in, he shoved Roland to evacuate and shouted for Chris to meet him on the terrace. Then he spun on his heel and sprinted, because his instincts screamed that this fight wasn't finished. Yet the cafe terrace still hasn't shown up. By the water, a calm figure sat and sipped tea like nothing could touch him. Wolf Magnus, the ex-teacher kicked out of the academy. Even with that dark past hanging over him, he looked perfectly steady, and when he greeted Ein, his confidence felt unsettling, like a warning wrapped in a smile. Ein lunged straight at Wolf Magnus, and the moment she saw him, she knew. He was the only one with a reason to wreck the academy. And as their voices clashed, Ein's razor-sharp senses caught a faint smell drifting from the nearby lake, and when he crept closer, he realized it wasn't just water. Magic stones were buried beneath the surface, spelling out that the former teacher had already set something huge into motion. Down beneath the lake, huge containers of unstable magic stones started rattling with violent energy, and the whole trap was built to flood every magic tool at the academy, making them go berserk before they finally blew sky-high. A sinister grin snapped onto Wolf Magnus' face as his plan reached the finish line. Ein snapped to it in seconds. There was a bomb buried right inside the lake's setup. Impressing Wolf Magnus, his razor-sharp intuition earned praise, and then Magnus slipped his twisted ideology right into the light. He couldn't stand how that academy smeared nobles and commoners together, turning it into a corrupt machine that handed power to people he thought didn't deserve it. His words dripped with pure resentment as he laid out his plan. Burn the whole system to ashes. Wolf Magnus bared his fury at the academy and swore revenge on the people who crushed his status. Then, rage blazing in his veins, he promised to burn down everything tied to his past to prove his ideals. Ain stood his ground, love blazing in his eyes for both his nation and the academy, and vowed that nobody would lay a hand on them. Then he clenched his resolve, ready to stop Wolf at any cost. Wolf revealed the bomb under the lake ran on pure, high-grade magic stones, and that blast was so vicious it could wipe the entire academy clean off the map. As the device started to overload, a brutal wave of energy surged, and the ground started buckling under it. He cackled, sure nobody could stop what was coming, while Ein stood there frozen, watching the explosion roar toward everything they had. Wolf Magnus, fully swallowed by madness, bellowed that he'd wipe everything out and forge a brand new Istallica from the ashes. His laughter rang out, full of delusion, as he proclaimed this destruction the first spark of a world-shaking revolution, his eyes blazing with twisted triumph while chaos swirled all around him. Wolf roared that Istallica would be reborn in a brand new pure form, right through his own hands. Then Ein spotted the lie and launched himself forward without a second thought. He declared Wolf was the one who truly messed up, then lunged forward with iron resolve, determined to stop the madness before it swallowed everything. Ein took wave after wave of brutal shockwaves, slamming each one aside as explosions tore through the area around him. Then he finally clocked it. The blasts were coming from a magic tool. As Wolf yelled, "Run, this blast will take us both," Ein steadied himself, calmly swore, "I'm not dying," and planted his feet as the chaos roared around them. Wolf strutted in, arrogant and loud, claiming he'd watch Istallica's rebirth from a special seat, and bragging that the jewels on his body would shield him from any blast, until right before he could finish. Inez unleashed a pinpoint strike, smashing his defenses and driving a dagger through him right in the middle of his sentence. Wolf bragged that the jewels on his body would keep him safe from the blast, and he watched Istallica rise again, reborn in front of him. Right before he could make another move, Ein exploded into motion and surged forward. He shoved in a decisive strike that tore clean through Wolf's defenses, freezing him in total shock. Ein slammed into him with a thunderous strike, and it blew right through Wolf's defenses like they weren't even there. Wolf froze in shock, staring like he couldn't believe it. He couldn't even keep up with Ein's raw strength. Then he crashed down, and Ein's voice cut through the air coldly. His ambitions were never going to happen. After smashing Wolf, Ein realized the bomb was still ticking, and she sprinted to stop it before it could go off. Ignoring Wolf's taunting warning that messing with it could set the explosion off early, Ein threw himself off the terrace and sprinted straight for the heart of the danger. Ong plunges underwater and spots that massive magic stone bomb in seconds. He thinks there's no way to defuse it the usual way, so he grabs his own skill, sealing the magic energy and racing to stop the explosion before it hits. Ein unleashes his power and wipes those magic stones clean of their magic. But when he tries to gulp them all at once, the taste hits like poison. Still, he forces the glow of the stones to dim, and when it finally works, relief crashes over him. Ein bursts out of the water, then crumples to the ground, dead tired but finally safe. Wolf laughs off his loss, stunned that Ein actually shut the bomb down. Chris leans in and grills Ein for every detail, and just like that, Wolf Magnus gets hauled away. Ein snaps that Wolf planted a bomb at the bottom of the lake to kick off a coup, then. But he can't shake the feeling that something about it is off, like it just doesn't make sense. The real target isn't some random fighter. It's the country's top brass, all packed together for today's competition, and right when that clicks, Ein finally starts to realize this plan goes way deeper. As Chris and the others trade talk about the exhibition, and how the royal family is right there, Ein suddenly clocks the terrifying truth. This isn't just a show, it's a trap. He's not just worried. He's sure there's more than one bomb out there, and that gut punch twist cranks the stakes even higher. Wolf finally admits that AIME cracked it. And he starts laughing at him like, "You'll never make it on time." Ein swears only she can defuse the bomb, but Chris slams back that she'll do it instead. Meanwhile, Wolf erupts in a maniacal laugh, and Ein instantly realizes the bomb is probably at the arena, yelling for everyone to hurry. Ein won't flee solo. Grandfather's face, his friends, and his clan all yank him back, refusing to let him run without them. Chris gets it instantly and throws caution to the wind, choosing to go with him, even if it costs her life, so they both bolt together, ready to face whatever comes. During the swordsmanship match, Dill's childhood friend lunges in and steals a point right off him. Surprise hits everyone, even the royal onlookers. Now both sides are tied at one point, and Dill's shocking fight instantly snatches the spotlight. The match rages on, every second turning hotter than the last. Dill spots the prince vanished from the stands, and his stomach drops. He remembers the promise to cheer for him, so when the prince is nowhere to be found, unease crawls in like fire. The third round of the match kicks off, but Dill can't focus. His mind is stuck on the prince, and his worry won't let him breathe. Even while the clash rages, he can't stop thinking about the missing prince, and anxiety gnaws at his chest. Ein and his crew sprint through the crowd, hunting the second bomb like it's about to explode any second. They realize the main gate is jam-packed, so they swap to the back gate. That's where the enemy can slip in. After they ask around, it clicks. There's a park back by the gate, and a bronze statue of the first king stands there. Ein's eyes narrow instantly. That has to be where the bomb is. Ein snaps into action and spots the second bomb tucked under the statue, then points at the bushes as a brutal, unmistakable smell spills out. The bomb's hooked up, and it's already radiating unstable power like it's about to explode any second, showing it's seconds away from blowing up. Ein spots the bomb igniting under the statue, and Chris panics, like they're one step too late to make it out. But Ein digs in, refusing to quit, then forces himself to shut it down at the very last second. Chris yells to Ein, panicking, begging her to hold the line, because if he can't stop that explosion right now, everything goes up in flames. Ein blows past his limits, rips out his final burst of power to save everyone, and then launches straight at the bomb. He lunged forward with everything he had, begging fate to stop it before it swallowed everything. Ein squares up against his opponent, and the tension crackles the moment the match begins. While his rival is locked in and ready to finally take the win, Ein can't stop her mind from wandering off somewhere else, which crushes his opponent's spirit, and Dill scrambles to prove he's the strongest in the Academy district, clenched his resolve, and stared down Ein with nothing but unwavering determination. As the fight crashes into a full-blown inferno, Ein screams Dill's name, rage and adrenaline blazing as she stares him down. She stands ready to snatch victory, calling out that this time she's coming out on top, while the crowd can't look away from their explosive face-off. Dill unleashes a clean, no doubt strike on Ein, and Ein gets slammed back hard. Dill gets the match handed to him by just one heartbreaking point. The whole crowd erupts as Dill strides off, crowned victorious, and every single person in the stands explodes with reactions to what just happened. Ein and his crew finally earn permission to head out as a reward for dealing with Wolf, so they rush into the castle town, hit the shops, and soak up a well-deserved day of fun. Ein, Olivia, and Chris wander through the seaside town after they finish shopping. Ein winces after grabbing all those clothes, but the girls laugh it off and tell him it's totally fine, because he's the crown prince. Still, the shock hits harder when he sees the bill and realizes it cost way more than he ever expected, and just as the wind howls, he suddenly feels freezing. The girls clock that Ein is shivering in the sea breeze, and they immediately tell him, "Dude, you need a scarf. This cold's only getting worse." Ein's eyes widen in shock when he realizes he doesn't have one at all. While they're busy gawking at the view, they rave about how the harbor curves into a perfect crescent. But then they spot the danger lurking farther out, reefs scattered across the open sea. They finally pieced it together. The crescent-shaped harbor was carved out after a monstrous attack, and the culprit was none other than the Sea King, a legend that. It was monstrous, bigger than the country's warships, and it could command the waves like they were obedient. And the wild part? It was just one single monster unleashing all of this chaos. They finally cracked the mystery. The monster that twisted the harbor into its strange new shape was the Sea Dragon. Ein and the girls stare, speechless, as the truth hits them like a punch to the gut. They're talking about how even one sea dragon has been terrorizing the seas for centuries, sinking ships, smashing whole crews, and leaving a trail of death behind it. In Istallica's history, only one monster has ever racked up more bodies than the Demon Lord. A sea dragon shows up every 100 to 200 years, and they can't shake the fear that it was never really defeated in the first place. Everyone is saying it wouldn't be shocking at all if the sea dragon showed up again any day now, and the knight just nods, calm but confident, reassuring them. Their countermeasure research finally paid off. Now their country stands stronger than ever, ready to shield them against anything. After they finish talking, one of the girls lights up and says she wants to hit a store. The whole group snaps to a yes, and just like that, Chris gets reminded she's got something to hunt down too. So they all pile out together, buzzing with excitement for their next stop. They step into that famous store, stunned by the glittering jewelry and the sleek shoes lined up on display. The team splits up to scout the building floor by floor. Ein dives into the first floor, while everyone else storms upstairs, soaking in the fancy, warm welcome like it's inviting them in for a fight. Ein strides up to the shopkeeper, hesitates for a split second, then blurts out that there's something he wants to buy. Later, the story slips into a peaceful night. Someone raises a glass and makes a toast beneath the moonlight. At the palace, a massive celebration erupts. Everyone crowds in, laughs, cheers, and soaks up the excitement together. Ein sinks into a chair at the table with his friends and clocks it right away. His grandfather looks weirdly at ease today, like everything's finally calm, while the king himself is glowing with high spirits. Ein is blazing with joy, declaring today the best day ever, because it's his 8th birthday. He gets a gleaming silver bracelet and a special pen stamped with the kingdom's coat of arms, and the joy hits him like a burst of fireworks. Ein thanks his mom, Klon, for the gifts. Then he spots Chris is gone and shoots straight questions, demanding to know where she disappeared. Then they push Ein out to the balcony for just a minute, and Ein stands there totally baffled, begging for answers. Ein steps out onto the balcony and freezes as snow starts falling, colder than before. Then Chris suddenly pops up, jittery with nervous happiness that Ein really showed up, and Ein's caught off guard, convinced it must be pure coincidence. And corners Chris and demands where she's been. Chris tries to spin a cover story, but the lie crumbles fast. Chris gets flustered fast, emotions spilling everywhere while Ein just thinks, "You're awful at lying," and she steels herself to speak, but the words snag in her throat, so Ein just stands there, totally confused. Chris carefully drapes a scarf around Ein's neck, sealing it as her birthday present. She looks totally embarrassed, cheeks blazing as she blurts out a happy birthday to him. Ein spots it instantly. The scarf is the exact one Chris was dying to buy before. She's absolutely mortified, stumbling over her words as she tries to explain, and finally admits she was so terrified to hand it to him, until this very moment. Ein looks genuinely moved as Chris can't sit still, stammering apologies and admitting it's her first time giving a gift. Then Ein hands Chris a present too, a necklace he bought from the same store. Chris froze in shock, her heart swelling as she stared at the necklace's beauty, and she couldn't stop smiling because Ein had given it to her. Anne claims she picked out separate gifts for Klain and his mom, but she insisted Chris open hers first, because he always takes care of him. Chris fumbles as she admits she isn't worthy, but Ein cuts in and won't let it slide. So she grins, takes the scarf right then, and swears she'll wear it every single day. Chris clutches the necklace Aim gave her, cheeks blazing red with a flustered blush. Ein notices her cheeks are glowing red, but Chris shoots back that it's just the cold, when the truth is, she's secretly bursting with happiness, all flustered. The story kicks off again on a remote island, cut off by endless water in every direction. A massive crash hits the sea with a thunderous splash, and in the deeper forest, Bats jolts awake, danger's right on top of them. So he yells for his companion to jump and warns the threat is coming fast, and before anyone can hesitate, they both leap straight toward him to be safe. Bats snaps in a solid hit and lands it clean, and Leonardo erupts in celebration, so proud of that flashy strike. But the moment he talks, the others pounce on him, saying the prince did the real heavy lifting by carving out that perfect opening, and Leonardo's bragging goes ignored by nobody because his teammates sure won't let it slide. A month back, the academy dropped a bombshell, an official field trip, but it wasn't your usual let's all go sightseeing day. This time, they shipped everyone off to a remote island floating near the Istal continent. The teacher leaned in and said their field trips weren't like the others, then dropped the real warning. Tough challenges were coming. Some students buzzed with excitement, but the Bats weren't having it. They acted like trouble was already on the way, and the teacher finally spills the truth about what this field trip is really about. Students get tossed into teams of 4, pulled from mixed classes, and they've got just 3 days to march across a marked island, on foot, with one nasty catch waiting at the end. Monsters swarm the island, hunting anything that dares breathe. No food, no drinks, no weapons, and no magic tools, just pure survival. So they'll have to hustle, secure everything by themselves, and the announcement hits everyone like a thunderclap. Students are told to team up in 4s, and Bats immediately panics. He's scared they'll shove him in with the lower class. But Roland and the others waste no time and practically pull him into the group. A little awkward, a ton of adrenaline. Bats, Leonardo, Roland, and one more classmate have finally teamed up, ready to charge into what's coming next. Ain's crew is stacked with the top-ranked kids from Class 1. And while they charge forward like a storm, Leonardo just laughs it off. Sure, it'll be a walk in the park. Dill snaps at them to keep their guard up, because monsters aren't the only threat, and his whole job as their escort is to keep everyone sharp, even when they're acting carefree. You can still feel the tension hanging over what's coming next. When the night finally drops, the crew decides to make camp, and Leonardo gets tasked with clearing and prepping the whole area. Calm and razor-sharp, like he's got everything under control even while the world tries to shake him. He whips out a scanning tool, blasting tiny energy pulses into the ground to map what's there, then locks in and starts his routine. Breath steadying as he readies himself for the next move. Once the camp was fully set, Leonardo slapped up a glowing barrier that kept monsters at bay, no questions asked. They even had food covered from the rabbit they'd bagged earlier, but now it was water time, and every source they found was nothing but mud, so they turned straight back to hunting for anything drinkable. Roland pitches a magical tool to cleanse the filthy water, but Dill cuts him off fast. Tools are banned, and the rules say no. Roland grins and shrugs, saying he'll whip one up right there on the spot. With monster stones in hand, he snaps together a purifier in seconds, then talks them through how to twist their magic vector into pure purification, leaving the whole crew staring, stunned, as he finishes it like it's nothing. Roland's tool works like a miracle, cleansing the water on the spot and even boosting it with minerals. And the whole crew can't stop raving about how it tastes, shouting that he's a total genius. Dill can't believe how effortlessly Roland forged it. As they finally catch their breath, Ein's mind races. Who does what and who stands where? He and Bat slam into the front lines, while Leonardo and Roland hang back, raining support from the rear. The whole team bursts into laughter, bound together like they've finally found their rhythm. And as they sync up more and more, Ein starts to think, wait, we might actually pull this off. But just when the mood starts to breathe, Leonardo shrugs it off and casually drops a bomb. He's found mushrooms that look dangerously poisonous. The group huddles up and lays out the deadly risk, because some poisonous fruits look almost exactly like the ones you can eat. Ein steps in and fires up his skill, Poison Dissolution X with Absorption, then creeps forward, scanning the fruit for toxins to swallow and break down, all without tipping off the others. After putting his skills to the test, Ein confidently declares the fruit is safe, and the whole group is stunned that he could tell them apart at a glance. Then he casually shrugs and says he read it in a book, and the whole group erupts in cheers over the extra food. Everyone scrambles to claim they caused it, but Dill gives the credit to the prince. Spirits are soaring as they finish up prep and dive straight into their meal. As the rabbit sizzles over the roaring fire, the whole group crowds in, buzzing at the smell of food, ready to dig in, until Dill shoots it down, claiming he's got his own portable rations. But the others won't let up. They push him to jump in and share the meal. Ein snaps that it'd be a total waste to sit out, and Dill eating too would give the team a real boost. Dill accepts their invitation and, as a trade, agrees to join them at the table to eat. He offers them something that's truly his own tea leaves. The whole crew gasps, convinced they just broke the rules. But Dill steps in and says it's a legit yearly tradition the Academy quietly allows. The whole crew gratefully takes the tea, deciding it's totally fine to savor a little comfort, until everything starts to calm down and Dill casually drops a bombshell. Leonardo's engagement gets sprung on everyone, bam, plans locked in, and the whole room is thrown off, especially Leonardo, who's left blinking, speechless, and burning with embarrassment. As soon as it happens, the others pounce on him with instant teasing, and Ein just grumbles under her breath that she'd thought they were real friends. The whole crew kicks off day 2 of their journey, buzzing with energy and ready to tear ahead. But the moment they push deeper into the forest, a dense fog suddenly rolls in like a living wall, swallowing the path and chopping their sight down to almost nothing. So they immediately know they'll have to move carefully or risk getting torn apart. Fighting his way through the thick fog, Roland's strength crumbles. Then he stumbles near a cliff and goes down. Ein blurts out, "Is there a spell to wipe this fog away?" But Roland snaps back that it can only be done with the perfect ingredients, and he doesn't have them, and then he comes tumbling down. Ein lunges in at the last second and catches him before he can hit the ground. After they save Roland, the whole crew finally exhales, and Ein snaps to Dill, warning him to stay sharp and be careful too. But when he whips his head around, Dill is already gone. The fog rolls in thicker and thicker, and they shout, confused, terrified. No one answers. Then it hits them. Dill is gone, vanished without a trace. Ein lunges ahead, clawing at hope to find Dill. Then Roland slams the brakes on him at the last second because the fog is choking everything, and it's already too late. Ein snaps orders to Roland and Leonardo to stick right by her and shield the bats, swearing no one else will disappear on her watch. So the whole group bunches up, and the moment they do, they realize this is way more terrifying than they ever thought. A colossal swarm of crow butterflies suddenly erupts into the sky, like the night itself has come alive. They're one of the island's biggest problems. Sure, each one's weak, but together they form a brutal swarm, moving like one. Leonardo snaps that they're far worse than they seem, because they've already closed in at insane speed around the whole group. Ein tightens his grip and gets ready to unleash his illusion skill the second trouble kicks in. For now, they go all in on escaping. Leonardo shouts that if they get caught, they'll be paralyzed, and those creatures will lay eggs inside their bodies. So the group moves like lightning, dodging every strike as they come. Ein and Leonardo charge ahead, carving a path through the chaos, while everyone else stays right on their heels, desperate to bust out before they're fully surrounded. They barely slip out alive from the swarm, then slam into a cave and hide, because survival is the only thing on their minds. Breathing hard and utterly spent, they pause to catch their footing. Ein admits he lost control because Dill was on his mind, and Leonardo snaps back that yelling like that in the middle of a fight is pure danger. Ein swallows his pride, apologizes, and admits his emotions got the best of him. As they huddle inside the cave to catch their breath, the whole group grills the situation. Then a strange magic beast from nowhere sparks fear, but Roland steps in fast, swearing Dill, the Academy's toughest kid, has to be okay. They unfold their map and their jaws drop. Turns out they've already crossed half the island. Leonardo leans in and warns them. The fog belongs to the crow butterflies, and they'll show up soon if they keep pushing. With no safer play on the table, they decide to march straight ahead. Ein pushes them to cram in as much progress as they can over the next 2 days, and the whole team nods. Then they rest up and hit the road right after. The very next morning, they tear into their journey, scrambling up cliffs, sprinting through forests, eyes wide and nerves ready, until those familiar screeching crow butterflies slam back into the air because the danger never really left. Worn out from non-stop running, the whole group finally calls a stop and agrees to rest. They eye a nearby cave for cover, but the bats catch his danger signals on the discolored gravel. He looks around, leveling the gloomy space with a purplish tint, then explains the miasma, probably from old magic or monster remains, and warns that the cave is unsafe. They decide to stay away, because those places can snap shut into deadly traps, and Bats warns them that miasma is toxic to both humans and beasts. Only the monsters living in that place can't be shaken by his knowledge. Everyone else is blown away. He gives all the credit to his father, Baron Krim, who's always wrestling dangerous creatures and drilling lessons into him every day. That night the crew throws down camp, leans back by the fire, and finally crashes into some much-needed rest. While the others drift to sleep, Ein stares into the crackling fire, because that troubled Dill in his head won't just disappear. And Wolin had vouched that the island was safe. No way they could have slipped past the danger of those crow butterflies. That realization flips everything. Maybe the island isn't the culprit at all, and the real problem is their group, their situation, something seriously off. While the fire crackles and the others sleep tight under the barrier, he fumbles with broken pieces. Then click asterisk, everything finally snaps into place. He realizes the weirdness doesn't come from the island at all. In this exact moment, he quietly slips over to Roland and asks for a moment of his time. Roland pushes him to dig for the truth, grilling him with sharp questions about the magic tool he's just started to suspect he created for water. He needs to know, can it swallow other stuff too, like miasma? Roland pauses, then nods like, yeah, it probably can. Ein then blurts out, can I borrow one of your tools? And Roland tosses it over without a clue, even though Ein clamps down on it like it's about to prove something big. She's already gearing up to test her theory. That squad's getting slammed by the crow butterflies again, and it's pure chaos. Now they're even more brutal than before, tearing into everyone from morning and driving the whole battlefield to its breaking point. So while people scramble to fight back, Ein suddenly shouts at Leonardo mid-battle, demanding a second because she's sure he's about to prove what he's been suspecting. While the fight rages, Ein blurts out to Leonardo, can your barrier stop poison? The moment Leonardo says yes, he rockets forward without a second thought. The whole group freezes, shocked by the sheer speed of his sudden move. Ein fires off an order right away, put up a barrier now, because he's seconds away from something dangerous and it screams reckless. Ein charges ahead into the danger, bulldozing his way through the panic that's screaming behind him. Right as the swarm surges in, Leonardo slams the barrier on, trapping everyone inside with zero time to spare. The crow butterflies batter the barrier again and again, losing their grip on the prey as they slam into it with furious screeches and scramble back. As soon as it's safe, the whole crew drops to the ground and gasps for breath, wiped out. Ein insists he only stretched their numbers for a moment, then orders everyone to rest and chug water. Yet before anyone can even answer, he whips around and vanishes off alone, leaving everyone else staring in confusion, with worry creeping in fast. Ain suddenly jerks the swarm away from the group and charges straight into the crow butterflies alone. Surrounded on every side, he grabs their attention and drives a wedge between himself and his teammates. The others stare in shock as he keeps pushing deeper into danger, only to realize too late that Ain's not attacking. He's setting himself up as bait. Ein whips the device down and slams it into the ground, smashing it to pieces. He unleashes a thick, roaring cloud that blasts outward, tearing through the swarm and scattering the crow butterflies everywhere. Chaos swirls all around, and Ein stands at the heart of it all. He's forced the enemies back with one brutal move. Then the group storms in, stunned that he's totally unharmed, even with that deadly miasma choking the air. With a calm smile, Ein just shrugs and tells them his poison resistance keeps it from messing with him. With the threat finally backing off, everyone caught the truth. His strike wasn't reckless at all, it was planned. The others surged toward Ein, yelling at him for risking everything, admitting they'd been scared out of their minds, and Ein just apologized. They zip right past it, choosing not to hang around for even a second. Right after that, the crew finally stumbles onto the target peninsula. And instead of relief, confusion hits hard, because something is clearly very wrong. They reach the destination and spot Dill waiting there, calm, steady, and totally safe. Then he hammers home that Ein's lightning-fast move against the swarm saved them, and he praises the way everyone fought as one. Dill finally blurts out the truth. This field trip was a family-planned test, and he'd been secretly picked to protect Ein right there beside Christina. So yeah, this whole mission was built to force them to grow, not just survive. Ein steps forward like a storm about to break, tells Dill straight up that his reckless move sparked real worry, and Dill freezes because he finally sees this isn't just Ein messing around. Ein promised to protect him, sure, but not by stealing trust again. Ein cracks open about it. He doesn't want some relationship run on ranks or orders, and Dill's actions slam into him harder than he ever expected. And he pleads for just one promise, never to make him feel that kind of fear again. Dill finally gets how heavy those words are, and he nods in silence, understanding that Ein isn't shutting him out. Ein is insisting on trust. Ein breaks the tension on the spot, shrugging off titles like they don't mean a thing, then tells Dill to call him by his actual name, because he wants truth, not fancy manners. After a quick, breath-holding pause, Dill nods and quietly gives in to Ain's request, accepting the bond and everything it means. Dill takes the request, looks Ein straight in the eye, and says their names like it's a vow, then promises they'll walk forward as true equals from here on out. Ein freezes, stunned, because she just realized their relationship has finally shifted for real. The tension melts away as everyone bursts into laughter together. Aim fires back that it's only for today, and Dill nods instantly. No second thoughts. They clasp hands like a weight just lifted off their shoulders, and for the first time, everything between them feels real and easy. The whole crew crowds the shoreline, grinning like they've just survived the worst, finally feeling safe. Once the trial's over, they're hit with the news, field trip's done, and before anyone can even breathe easy, a ship's already waiting to blast them back home. Hand in hand, they set off for home, racing straight toward the capital. On the way back on the ship, Ein finally clocks it. Christina wasn't just there, she'd been watching them from the forest the whole time. Christina hesitated as she finally admitted she'd cloaked herself with magic and been watching everything. Ain was shocked he'd even spotted her, because he'd only felt something familiar tangled in the crow butterfly's magic, and Christina went totally flustered at how fast he figured it out. As the ship keeps cutting through the waves, the ocean suddenly explodes. Up rises a colossal magic beast, surfacing and dragging a Kraken to the surface, and the whole vessel shudders. Christina snaps back, while the crew scrambles into position and starts loading the cannons. Ain feels it. Something's terribly wrong, like this creature has no business being here, and the return trip turns deadly in the blink of an eye. A colossal sea beast smashes the ship with one brutal strike, ripping open the hull like it's paper. Its massive size and razor-sharp fangs could smash a vessel in a single bite, right before it could finish the attack. A monstrous vortex erupts, yanks the creature straight into the sea, and devours it in one brutal gulp, leaving everyone frozen, staring at nothing, shocked it disappeared that fast. A gigantic sea dragon rips out of the vortex, towering over everything in sight, and just its sheer presence crushes the area, like the real nightmare has finally arrived. The sea dragon surges up from the depths and unleashes a thunderous roar, smashing everything in its path with raw, crushing power. It snatches the kraken and devours it without breaking a sweat. So when the group realizes they're about to get swallowed next, they bolt back fast, because this monster is way past their league. The ship slips away while the sea dragon looms over the waves, like the ocean itself is its kingdom. Ian's eyes widen as he realizes he didn't just see the sea's king, he caught the real thing in front of him. After that terrifying encounter, the dragon never once comes chasing them again. People even file a report about it, but the creature disappears for good and is never seen again. For 6 long months, nothing major even dares to happen. Life at the academy settles back into a steady grind of studying and training. And after that, the sea dragon is never seen again. As the crew splits up, they trade quick, casual goodbyes, and that day slips away quietly, yet it sticks in their heads like a promise they'll never forget. The very next day at the academy, everything just rolls on. Ein squeezes in goodbye after goodbye, gets yanked straight back into training and brushes it off with a grin. At only 9 years old, he breezes into his 3rd year like it's nothing, already stepping into the next chapter of his life. Christina closes in and casually straightens Ein's collar, then points out, "It's crooked." Ein gets caught off guard, tenses for a split second, then quickly thanks him. The moment fades sweetly, and he's left totally flustered while she smiles and slips back out of reach. Just as Ian and Christina are about to slip out the door, knights come barreling in and cut them off. Christina is snapped back to the castle, right away, no questions asked. Guards immediately step in to escort her, and she blurts out an apology, then pleads with Ein to hold back, and he stays calm, nods, and waits, while she's quickly pulled away. Christina suddenly blurts out, "Let's take a detour," and she bolts without even waiting for an answer. The guards are thrown off guard, and Ein freezes for just a heartbeat, then snaps into motion, chasing her down, totally baffled by what just happened. Ein hears that a monster from the national stage has just appeared. Alarms blare, and the whole city goes into emergency mode, while Christina is already on her way to handle it. They sprint back to the capital, and Ein gets ushered inside as everyone scrambles. Because this crisis isn't just coming, it's already out of normal control. The moment Ein steps into the room, his gut screams that something's off. And the knights are few, so everyone's sitting there tight, shoulders tense like they're bracing for impact. He bursts back into the spotlight and announces his return, and spots the royal council packed together, like they're bracing for something way worse than anyone thought. Ein bursts in and freezes when he sees who's waiting. Christina stands right there beside the king, and the moment her real identity clicks into place, everything changes. The meeting keeps rolling as the king finally grabs the reins and takes full control. I'm explaining the crisis. Then a sea dragon shows up near the port town of Magna, and everything spirals out of control in a flash. The king admits the nightmare is even worse than they thought. No matter how many countermeasures they tried, the threat won't budge. And then the real truth finally snaps into place. It's not just one sea dragon, there are 2 of them out there in the waves. The room goes deathly quiet as the full disaster crashes into everyone. Because it turns out 2 sea dragons are at the center of it all, and Ein is left totally stunned as the reality finally sinks in. If nobody acts, people will die, so they slam the decision down. Christina has to be sent to handle it at the highest level, and everyone in the room knows there's 0 time to hesitate. Annie panics, screaming for the entire military to be deployed, right now. The king snaps that they've already thrown everything they've got, navy included, adventurers too, and most knights are stuck back guarding the capital. Since there's no other choice, they're forced to put their faith in Christina to wrestle control of the crisis. Fear snaps into Ein's chest as the memories of the sea dragon crash back like a wave. He blurts out that he's terrified and wants to bolt, while still knowing his grandfather is right, stuck in a brutal tug-of-war between reason and panic, unable to move. Fighting like hell to brace for what's about to hit. Ein realizes the sea dragon doesn't scare him most. Death and fear don't even come close. What crushes him is the idea of losing the people who believe in him. Then Christina grins, calls his name, and that gut punch hits harder than anything. Ein steps up, eyes blazing, and makes his choice crystal clear. He's going to Magna himself, marching straight into the sea dragon's territory, owning every risk, and taking full responsibility for whatever hits next. The king snaps with fury, blasting Ein as reckless and demanding to know what he thinks he's doing, while the whole room freezes, because everyone reminds Ein that he's the crown prince now, and his life isn't his alone anymore. Stares burn into him, but Ein doesn't crack. He stands his ground and says he gets it. Refusing to undo his call, Ein won't sit still. He snaps that he can't just wait while danger swells. He's convinced it's the king's job to face the sea dragon, just like the first king once did. His mother scrambles to stop him, panicking as if time is running out. But Ein makes it crystal clear. He's going to Magna no matter what, and he presses Chris hard, demanding to be allowed to join him as his resolve shows up without a single second of doubt. After a tense beat of silence, the king finally nods and accepts his choice, saying he understands him. Then the whole room erupts in shock, while Ein whips his gaze to his grandfather, knowing there's no turning back now. Olivia yanks Ein into her arms in the blink of an eye. She throws herself in front of him and rages at the plan, refusing to let violence happen. Then she openly snaps that it's a totally unreasonable choice. The king keeps his cool, snaps out orders to drag Ein out of the room, and tells them to haul him straight to Kadama's chambers. As Olivia gets escorted to rest, the guards rush to pin Ein down, straight as the king orders him to stay put. And Olivia panics, lunging for him, but they haul Ein away anyway, even as she screams and protests. The courtroom erupts in shock as Ain's resolve gets dragged into question, and his duty as crown prince is slammed into a brutal trial. He pounds on the sealed door over and over. He panicked the second he realized his magic couldn't crack it. When he hears there are 2 sea dragons, panic spikes through him, because Chris and the others are still out there fighting and time is running out. He clamps his fists tight, fighting to stay calm, and he begs to break free and help before it's too late. Ein storms into the truth. His room has been slammed with a brutal seal, cutting his magic down to nothing. They tell him he isn't strong enough to take on the sea dragon, so he's stuck inside, fists clenched, praying Chris comes back safe. He finally saw just how weak he really was. Ein clenches his fist, trapped in fear and helplessness, and as he prays alone, someone urges him to look around the room. He spots the clue he totally missed, right there before the seal even swallows it, and in one breath his despair flips into sharp realization and raw resolve. Ein spots a weird black crystal tucked away in the room, like it's just waiting to be found. The instant he makes contact with it, the cursed magic stone erupts in violent chaos the moment it's triggered. When he finally spots the seal's source, everything clicks. Now he knows exactly what's been choking his power, and dark energy bursts out like massive wings, proving his control has finally been freed. The backlash slams into Kadama, and she freezes solid, unable to move, while Ein stands in the middle, spiraling as the energy she unleashed keeps swelling and swallowing everything. A calm aura settles over Ein as the magic goes completely wild. The stone's power starts to fade, the seal finally locks into place, and the brutal outburst cuts off for good. In the safety of those arms, Ein's eyes flutter shut. She slips into unconsciousness, wrapped in warmth and comfort, like someone is holding her close and gently guiding her back to herself. Ein jolts back to himself, gripping the stone, now steady, calm, and harmless, because every last bit of its power has been drained out, and the whole crowd finally exhales as the danger slips away, even as Ein quietly starts apologizing. Shaken by how close everything was to spiraling out of control, Ein unleashes the last of her power and smashes the seal clean in half. That sudden surge hits, and the whole place freezes. Everyone finally realizes just how much power he sucked in. Before anyone can lunge after him or even get a word out, Ein stays cool, pivots away, slips out of the room, and slams the door, leaving the others staring in stunned silence. Ein spots Klon in the corridor and yells his name, fully understanding why he's choosing this. She reaches for his hand, but he carefully slips away. Even with her heart begging him to stay, Ein stays steady, confirms he's really gone, and walks off alone. Aim snaps his promise as he turns his back. "I'll be back." She slides right up to him and plants a sweet kiss on his cheek. They pause him mid-step and surprise hits. He freezes. Meanwhile, she lets him go with a smile, her feelings locked down tight and left unsaid. She smiles up at him and urges him to travel safe, calling it her blessing. Ein steadies his breath, flashes that calm smile, and answers with zero fuss, already locked in and ready to go. She freezes as he tears down the hallway, quietly hoping he returns safe and sound. Ein doesn't even glance back. He digs in, steadies his nerve, and keeps charging forward. Lloyd steps up too, eyes locked with a brutal, unshakable glare. Knights formed up behind him, and the vibe snapped in an instant. No more debating, just a full-on command. Lloyd shoots Ein a sharp look and challenges her move, all while keeping his voice unnervingly calm. Suddenly, the floor splits and the walls explode with cracks, and the whole building starts violently shaking. Lloyd strides forward and snaps the tension in half. Ein locks eyes with him as the whole space turns hostile. Ein demands to leave, refusing to fold even an inch, and Lloyd shoots back with a furious glare, saying he's far too important to risk. Then he steps forward, sword up and ready to cut him down if he tries anything. Lloyd lunges to stop Ein, but a binding spell snaps shut like a trap. His body locks mid-strike, freezing him even to the bone, and Ein realizes it's a brutal restriction strong enough to pin Lloyd down and keep him from interfering. Ein's power suddenly explodes outward, bursting past his control as he gasps for air, drowning in his own strength. Lloyd steps aside and lets him through, barking that he can't ignore the weight crushing his shoulders. Yet Ein marches forward anyway, choosing to make his own move. Lloyd grits his teeth and pushes through the pressure, his muscles screaming as the magic coils and bends around him. Cracks spread under his feet, but he kept moving. Then he ordered the knights to hold back until Ein was far enough, even as the ground groaned under the weight. Lloyd plants his feet and charges ahead, while Ein rockets through the castle halls, and Lloyd watches her with a razor-sharp grin, praising him as truly exceptional. Ein bursts through to the outside, wheezing like he can't breathe, stunned by how huge the castle is, and as he sprints he can't stop thinking, should he push on or grab a horse? When a voice suddenly snaps from behind him. At night, Dill steps in and blocks Ein with a horse, telling him to hop on. Only Ein freezes in place because he knows Dill can't truly stop him, but admits that if they get help, it could change everything as they gear up to move in together. Dill proclaims his loyalty to Ein above his own homeland, then grins and rides out beside him like it's the best decision he's ever made. No surprise at all, he just shrugs it off and keeps rolling forward with her. Dill discovers the quickest way to Magna is slammed shut by royal orders. Regular travel would take forever, and Ein can't shake the fear of the delay. Then he blurts out there's another way, one that reeks of danger, while the clock keeps bleeding time right out of the moment. Dill blurts out that the transport is locked in by royal decree, then Ein clocks it. As the crown prince, he can technically bulldoze that order if he wants. If he did it, people would later scream, abuse of power, and he'd be heading straight for serious trouble. The king slams down his verdict. Ein is banished from the royal family. Surrounded by everyone, he doesn't fight it, he just accepts it in silence, paying the cost of exile to follow his own will. Ein wastes zero time. He makes his call on the spot, then uses his authority to order the royal water train to move. Dill freezes for a second, then gets it, while Ein beams, thankful for the truth, and ready to dive headfirst into what comes next. The water train finally lurches forward, and those gears start grinding like they've got something to prove. The city streaks by like a blur while the train rips across the bridge. Ein digs in, chasing one single obsession: reach Magna as fast as the seconds will allow. The entire country erupts into war mode as the sea transforms into a killing ground, and warships unleash cannon fire non-stop. Explosions batter the waves, and the sea dragon barrels right through the barrage. Even while chaos and heavy attacks slam in, it refuses to stop. Its forehead magic stone keeps blazing, and the full battle finally detonates. The commander shouts everyone into motion for the final push. No doubt, no hesitation. Their mission is crystal clear: shatter that magic stone and end this right here. But the losses are brutal. Everyone's forces are already shattered, so the sea dragon surges back up again. Cannons blast without mercy as the ship groans and splits under the strain. If this keeps going, they're dead. The sea dragon rockets ahead in a deadly streak of motion. The commander doesn't stall for a second. He barks the order and the cannons blast at once. He blasted the dragon in the middle of its charge, and right around the ship, water and smoke erupted like a hurricane. Cannon blasts smash the sea dragon's magic stone, and the soldiers erupt in cheers like it's finally over. Then the commander doesn't blink, still on full alert because one dragon is down, and another one is still out there. The wounded sea dragon rages and thrashes, smashing the ships as towering waves crash down. Even without its magic stone, it still hammers forward, smashing the water and tearing into hulls with raw brute force, sending the whole fleet into total chaos because this fight is far from finished. The sea dragon, cornered to its breaking point, unleashes one last violent surge, so fierce it drags the very ocean into chaos. As the soldiers get swallowed by the crashing waves, Ein finally clocks the truth, too late, because that other sea dragon is still out there, smashing their fragile hope and dragging them back into fresh danger. Behind Ein, the second sea dragon surges up and roars. Then it crashes down, diving straight for the kill. She digs in and charges straight at it, while miles away, Chris steals his last thought of her, praying his voice can snap through in time before the impact hits. A heavy fog erupts over the sea, swallowing the whole battlefield in seconds and cloaking the sea dragon so no one can see it. Ein freezes as the creature slips into the mist, and the moment it vanishes, dread hits hard, because the next sounds of movement rush in from all sides. Chris bursts out of the fog right in front of Ain and thrusts his hand toward her. He says the mist is a skill built to choke off sight, but Ain is stunned he even showed up on the battlefield, and she snaps at him to get back to the capital right now. Ain calls on the royal family's full authority and grabs command of the battlefield. He steps forward and flat-out declares, "I'll take on the sea dragon myself," then barks orders for everyone to back him, leaving the soldiers stunned because he's flooding the battlefield with royal power, crushing every ounce of doubt and flipping the tide in an instant. Ain coldly barks orders for everyone to fall in line, leaving zero doubt that defying the crown prince simply isn't on the table. Once his authority finally clicks in, everyone around him tightens up, because those eyes mean business. The soldiers want to stall, but the pressure shoves them forward, and they realize Ain isn't asking anymore, he's ordering. Ain steps in as the sea dragon rams onto the deck, hands the ship's control to Dill without a second thought, and charges straight at the monster alone. With his allies yanked back and the crew staring in total shock, Ain stands up like a storm and declares, "I'm the dragon's opponent," charging straight into the fight head-on. The sea dragon rockets straight at Ain, snapping its jaws wide. But Ain shoots out power in force-like strands, yanking the bite shut and stopping it dead in its tracks. The whole ship jolts as the monster thrashes, yanks sailors off their feet and slams onto the deck. Yet Ain plants himself, pins the dragon in place, and turns that terrifying charge into a brutal showdown of raw strength. Ain digs in and refuses to budge as the sea dragon crashes forward, and snap, phantom hands swarm out, pinning its head and jaws shut. The dragon thrashes like crazy, but Aim keeps cranking the bind tighter and tighter, yanking it back with pure control. His training screams through every move as he twists the monster off balance and drives it down hard, freezing its advance in its tracks. Ain darts aside and barely avoids the sea dragon's strike, then spots a magic stone lodged right in its forehead. He eases its motion with his power, closes the gap in a blur, and goes straight for the core. Then he grabs it, fires up his ability, and starts siphoning the stone's magic, weakening the dragon from the inside out. The sea dragon thrashes in agony as its magic spirals wild out of control, and Aim keeps sucking the stone dry, until that power rebound hits like a storm and rips across the deck. The creature bellows as its body crumples from the power it's losing, and the crowd finally realizes this fight is about to end. Ain realizes the sea dragon's power runs way deeper than he ever guessed, and wiping it out won't be simple. Still, he grits his teeth and digs in, clinging to the monster as it plunges beneath the waves. He swallows the risk and charges straight into it, dragging the clash into a brutal test of stamina, until one of them finally breaks and drops. Ain is forced to the breaking point underwater, gulping down his oxygen and burning through magic just to stay alive against the crushing pressure. As his strength crumbles, he feels the sea dragon's core power right ahead. While he's still sliding, losing control inch by inch, he refuses to quit, driving himself forward to reach it before time runs out. Ain slams the drained magic back into the stone, snapping it into raw, usable power again. He gulps down every scrap of power he grabs, steamrolling past his breaking point, and with pure stubborn will, he hoists in even more magic, fueling himself for that last, final push. Ain digs deep one last time, forcing raw power to surge through his body. The sea dragon lunges, so he barrels straight through it, wrecked and all, refusing to stop. Even as his power drains away, he still keeps charging, dead set on ending this fight no matter what it costs. Ain shoves past his breaking point, but the final spark of power slips right out of him, so the magic stone gets hurled aside as his strength crumbles away. As he drops, every face that matters to him flashes in his mind, and his own name keeps echoing through the silence as the battle finally dies out. Ain grits his teeth, slams himself back into the fray, and thrusts up for one last strike, using every scrap of strength he has left to swing his blade straight at the sea dragon, because this hit is the one that will decide everything. A thunderous roar rips across the sea, rattling the entire fleet to its core. The soldiers jerk to a stop, staring in pure shock as they realize the sea dragon is still alive. Then their focus snaps right back to the battlefield, terrified of what's about to hit next. The battle finally stops, and she barrels straight into him, yanking him into a crushing hug, while he, battered and drained, melts into her arms as the tension slips away, quiet relief washing over them after the chaos. After the dust settles, Ain snaps awake on board the ship. Wrapped head to toe in heavy bandages, he couldn't move a muscle. He cracks a joke about his condition, but the moment he sees everyone go still in shock, the truth of those injuries hits him like a punch, because everyone realizes he pushed himself way too far. Ein tells them his body feels numb, not ruined forever, and the second they examine him, they spot the ruby he once got, shattered clean in two, proving his survival wasn't luck. But that power came with a price. Ein stayed alive only because the broken stone was quietly draining itself, mending him inch by inch until its light was almost gone. Realizing he'd been seconds from death leaves everyone reeling, because the truth hits harder the moment it finally lands. She takes his hand and tells him, softly but firmly, that he can't keep burning himself the way he used to, while tears stream down her face with pure, trembling relief. He flashes a small smile and apologizes through the pain, trying to shake off the tension, until the danger finally slips away and a warm, quiet calm settles in. She's stunned into silence at how casually he's acting, while he just stares back, utterly confused by the night's soft, sighing pull. The moment everyone accepts what's happening, the heavy tension instantly lifts and the air feels lighter. Once he gives the okay to walk, they gear up and fire off straight back to the capital, together. He shoulders the fallout of defying orders with zero regret, and he's content, because he knows he helped even if it was only a tiny bit. As they stride forward together, he clings to his pride like it's the last thing keeping him standing. Standing before the roaring crowd, he meets what's coming next with unshakable calm. They shove him back to the capital and drag him straight to the castle gates. He's wiped out, but he trudges in silence, wordless and unbroken. Inside the throne hall, he drops into a deep bow and declares his return with full formality, locking eyes with the king once again. Right there in front of the court, the king steps up and formally lays into him. He thumps his chest, praising himself, and declares that smashing the sea dragon was a service worthy of the nation. The hall erupts in approval as they officially recognize his contribution. The court lays it all out. His moves didn't just win. He took down one of the two sea dragons, shielded Magna, and wiped out almost all expected damage across the kingdom. And the treasure he earned from that dragon, it blows the national budget out of the water. The king throws him praise out in the open, hailing his deeds as the work of a real hero. The report doesn't slow down. It slams you with the battle's damage. The royal water train is nearly in ruins, and the Gracier family loses some ships too, while it's revealed someone actually helped Ein pull off her moves. Dill strides forward, confesses it was all his fault, and stands ready to take every consequence. No hesitation, no excuses. Ein storms into the court, cutting Dill off mid-confession and stopping him from taking the fall. He straight up admits he used the royal order to bully Dill into cooperating, and he swears that if punishment comes, it should land on him alone. Because right in front of the king, he's claiming every bit of responsibility and refusing to let anyone else pay for it. Dill drops to one knee before the king, and without hesitation, takes the blame on his own shoulders. He finally admits he couldn't stop Ein, even with his martial badge, and now he's begging to be punished for it instead. Right when the tension hits its absolute breaking point, the king suddenly bursts into laughter, sending everyone into shock. The king slams the brakes on the chaos, then announces to everyone that Dill won't be punished. He declares that Ein's moves were backed by royal authority, washing him clean of any major blame. And just to dot the I's, Ein gets 2 months of house arrest inside the castle, sealing the trial in a sudden, quiet end. The king seals the trial's outcome. Chris gets promoted to marshal for his service, but Lloyd gets stripped of his role and reassigned as the king's personal escort. Once the verdict lands, the king slams the whole argument shut, snuffing out any last push for harsher punishment and cutting the court session off mid-breath. As the trial wraps up, Ein spots Clan all alone out on the balcony. She swears she won't cry, counting on Ein to come back and nail that promise. Then, when the worry finally eases, she lifts a shaky smile as the quiet warmth settles between them. Clan barrels into Ein, sobbing as he snaps at him, clutching his clothes like he can't believe he's safe. After she finally calms down, she blurts out an apology and admits she was rushing to see Olivia. Ein reassures her on the spot, and the tension melts as they stay close in silence. Ein storms back home and bangs on the door, shouting his name to his mother so she knows he's here. The second he steps in, he freezes cold. An enormous, twisted tree has swallowed the whole room. Vines and roots slam into the room, and he's left staring in shock at what he uncovers. Then Ein spots her mother inside, trapped and overrun by roots. She assures him she's fine, waves off the damage like it's nothing, and he finally comes back safe, so the weight lifts off his shoulders. Spotting his injuries, she carefully checks him, and Ein reassures her that he's okay now. Tears spill down his face before he even realizes they've started. Stunned by the sudden wave of emotion, he's gently pulled in and held close, and in that quiet moment someone tells him, "You did great." The weight of everything he's been carrying finally slips away. Sure he was safe at last, he finally broke, pulling everything in close, letting it all out while she comforted him. Fear and pressure finally drain out of him. His mission is done, and for the first time ever he gets to sink into rest.